My man Josh Waters, man, it's been a while. It's good
Man,
catching up with you, man.
it's been too long, man.
It's been way too long, man. I was so glad to get you over here, man, and this is something I've been thinking about for so long, man.
Yeah.
It's like I said, man, I have so much respect for you. Like we were talking about before the podcast, always have, man. I love see what you're doing with your life, see what you're doing with your family, man. I just
Appreciate
really wanted to get you here and tap into your mind a little bit, man.
The respect is mutual. You know, we get to follow each other online. We don't get to see each other all the time.
Yeah, man, that was like one of the main things I put
it.
down that I wanted to like talk to you off the bat. I was like, man, it's like long time no see, but I feel like I see you all the time because of social media. But we don't get the combo.
It ain't real.
It ain't real. But we don't get the combo with it. So I was thinking like, man, this is the perfect thing for us, man. This is the perfect thing for me in general.
Definitely.
Good way for me to get information and things that I want to hear from people and conversations I want to have for myself that I also think is going to provide value to the people.
I hope I can provide some value, man.
Man, I think from what I see on your social media, man, I think that's what you're doing at all times, man. I feel like that's what's going on at all times right now. I feel like you got so many angles going, man. Start off for the people that don't know you like I know you didn't grow up around you and stuff. Tell people who you are in your words, man. Tell them just
where do I start?
Yeah, I mean it's straight origin story, man.
Okay.
Tell us how you grew up. You know what I mean? Let people know who you are and where you're at today.
Well, let's start here. I started, my name is Josh Waters. You already said that.
Yes, sir.
You know, born and raised here in Columbus, Ohio. Grew up on the west side of town. If you know anything about the west side of Columbus, the Hilltop in particular, is not the greatest place to grow up. But, I mean, we made it, just like you said. So we made it out of there. My family, you know, a ton of my family lives in Columbus. So I'm Columbus born and bred. Like, this is where my roots are. You know what I'm saying? I love it here. But we've since migrated to the east side of town. So in the process of that, some change has come. So even going back to that stage, like leaving the west side, I felt like I was leaving the people I grew up with, you know, things like that. But at the same time, it gave me exposure. So I was able to see a lot of things differently. It allowed me to see some experiences, be around some entrepreneurs and things like that kind of helped to steer me to where I am today. So as of today, you know, I'm a husband and father of 3 beautiful girls. I would tell anybody that's been probably one of the biggest decisions of my life, man. Because I used to think I had ambition, you know, before getting married. But something about adding kids to the equation, man. It's like
glad you said that, man.
It amplifies your ambition. So definitely, I had some kids along the way. Had a few business ventures that I've tried. You know, I've worked a 9 to 5 and those things. But I felt like I needed liberation, man. I've always kind of freelanced on the side. My trade is technology, so I do web development, web marketing. Picked up some clients along the way through the years, and some of those clients about 10 years in? Yeah, about 10 years in. Started a business, got some clients, and some of them are still my clients today. So that's really how I make my bread and butter. Like that's how I provide for my family.
Right.
Somewhere along the way, man, I look back at where I've come from. Starting the company and doing some other things on the side, and that's where the idea for my book came from. So I'm now a business owner, author of my first book, the book called Streams, husband, father. I mean, how many other titles you want, man?
I love it, man.
It's starting to become too much, man. It's like,
oh man.
But the thing is, let me say this before you even go any further, because I don't want to sound like who is that man? He's the man. Like, I still feel like a nobody. You know what I mean? So for you to say, like, you looked at my Instagram and was like, moved by it in any way, dude, that feels like heaven. Like, to hear that means so much. Like, wow, somebody actually paid attention to what I'm putting out. It's actually helping somebody or, encouraging somebody. Like, that's what I get the most out of. So.
Man, like I told you, I think I touched base with you a little bit, but I definitely want to tell you now in person of your book, man. The new book, Streams, man. It was everything that you're saying for me, man. It was something that really kicked me in gear, and I mean, it's a big part of why we're here right now, man.
I love it.
It's a major part of why we're here right now, man.
And I love to hear that
because the things you say in there and stuff, and that's another reason I wanted to have you on to talk about some of the things specifically that you talk in there and get your opinion on how you think someone like me or even my guy Luis here that does basically my partner in this can do some of the things that you're talking about in there, and I think he's already definitely dabbled in some of that. And I'd like to. Eventually do some of that as well with things I know, but it's been weird for me because for the longest time I had no idea what my passion was.
Dude.
And even now I'm still like, you know what I mean? It's a new feeling for me.
Yeah.
That this kind of feels like this might be my thing, man.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what it was before, and I never felt super strong and strong enough about something to be like, okay, yeah, that's what I'm going 100% at. That's what I'm gonna do the full push for.
I believe that.
And the reason I said I love that you said something about the motivation and everything and ambition that having children did for you, it's like, it's crazy. I think about all the time. I've randomly mentioned it to people, but I don't think I've really got in depth. That like I literally at times feel like, man, I wish I'd had a kid on some young stuff. Like one of those things where like, hey, we did what we could to try to be responsible and make sure ducks were in order before we got to that point. And this,
Please, let's go there during this conversation.
Man, and then now, like ever since I had her, it was like from the moment I had her.
Yeah.
Like so, like some people I hear them say like, oh, they knew this and they felt this when they seen the kid, this and that. I didn't have that same type of feeling.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have that same like, oh, as soon as I saw her, it felt all this like. And it was, I don't know if that's kind of because I've been a big part of like my nieces and nephews' lives and I saw them born and stuff like that, to where that whole experience wasn't super foreign to me.
Yeah.
But just once I had her, and as soon as I had her home and stuff like that, and started thinking about what I want for her and for her life, and even if it's not providing her with anything material or anything like that, providing her with what she gets to see out of me.
Yes.
Providing her with what she is going to know, who a man is, what a man is, how he should conduct himself, how he should treat his wife and woman or whoever it is, his children, all that. And then on top of that, that extra ambition of like, okay, because of that, I need to kick it in gear because it's like this is what I need to do to show her like there's no reason to sit around and not go into things and try things that maybe you're interested in or that could turn into an opportunity for you or even just be a good experience. I love the saying a lot of people say, talking about how nothing is really like a loss or a negative. It's just a learning experience.
That's it. And the thing about the kids, man, like you mentioned, having them earlier, all of that, like, so my wife and I got married, what was I, 24? I think I was 24 and 23. And I felt like that was early. But just like you said, it's all about, I think for us guys, especially if you had any kind of, you've been in and out of relationships, like one of the most scary things, I guess, is that how you say it? One of the most fearful things you could do is to get married because it's that commitment. But once you finally get past that, man, it's like life gets so much better on the other side. It's a game changer. So when the kids come, it's like you said, you want to get your ducks in a row, you want to add that stability, but excuse me, it's something about, like, it's not all about the material things. It's just kind of about making sure that they have a stable life, that their needs are met. You know what I mean? And I think that kicks you into high gear to the point where actually you can do above and beyond because you're so willing to be, it's your responsibility. You got to take care of it, outside of yourself. And maybe even more so as a father of girls. I got 3 of them. You're father of a girl. I can't say the same for a son. I haven't had it yet, but
same here, man.
But it's just something about, taking care of a young woman, your wife, like those things got me in high gear. So, I was okay at being an entrepreneur, making my little whatever on the side, getting my little whatever, but something about having that wife is like, together we do more. Or, like, because I'm trying to provide for them, like it just, some of the things I used to be fearful of, courage kicks in. So I'm proud of you, man. I'm glad you started this podcast,
man. I appreciate it, man.
If this book had anything to do with that, I know the wife and the daughter did, but
man, when I tell you a major way, you got to understand, like I said, like you just mentioned, my wife definitely gets it in on the business side as well too, and it's been a huge motivation and something that just in home, being able to see that in home of what can be done, especially just doing the work.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what she was to me in the most impactful way that I never would have expected once me and her got together and stuff like that, is that to see somebody that is just a go-getter, that just like put in the work, do the work, and things will come. Things will start to happen for you when you just get after it, man.
Yeah.
So she definitely was an influence, but your book definitely was outrageous game changer because it's like, it basically started pounding me in the head with why not?
Gotcha.
Why not start? Why not try this? Why not go here? Why not? You know what I mean? And it just made so much sense. But I definitely agree with you wholeheartedly on the wife thing and the family thing. I mean, just especially the fact that they are females, and like you
Yes.
said, to have daughters and have a wife where it's an added element of wanting to be protective of them and want to be something that is like the guiding force for them and all that. So it's a game changer, man,
game
because
changer.
it changes your outlook on so many things, and it just, like you said, that courage, that's one of the things for sure that I noticed. And at first, it was something similar to, like I said before, that early on, I was like, hold on, I don't know if I quite feel the impact right away.
Yeah.
But as soon as we start going out in public,
Oh yeah.
I mean, even when she was pregnant, I go out in public and we be in a crowded area and somebody want to like be reckless or kind of want to bump into, and I'm just like,
You get into protector mode,
man,
right?
I don't want to go there, but
it's natural.
but everybody better calm down
Right.
around this pregnant woman. Like, have some
That's
respect,
it.
have some
That's
sense.
it.
Like,
So just like you go to war if somebody did something to your wife out,
Right.
same thing in the business realm. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yep.
I might not be as afraid to get a no because I'm trying to support my family. If I'm taking care of myself and I get a no, maybe this ain't for me. You know what I mean?
I love hearing
but
that,
something
man.
about being in a committed relationship, having your kids and having to provide. Courage, man, it just throws all that fear out the door. It did for me anyway.
Yeah,
I think that might be what separates those who really say they're ambitious from those who just talk it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You'll see when the rubber meets the road. You know? Like,
absolutely, man. Absolutely. I felt like that was a big part of why I didn't start on a lot of things. Also, is because at first I felt like I just was a talker, which is crazy because now I'm talking.
But passion.
Yeah, but like in the intro that we recorded for this and stuff like that, and I want to make sure I throw it out there anytime possible, man. I want to let people know I'm an expert of nothing.
Dude.
That's how I feel. I'm an expert of nothing. And
yet
I don't
you're
even
starting this.
Yeah, and it's just about doing, man. It's
That's
just about
it.
going, putting in the hard work and stuff. And I felt those same type of feelings, like you're saying, that at times I felt like I was just a talker and I didn't have the ambition and stuff. But it was just because I'm a more guarded person that I didn't want to dive into something when
Right.
I didn't really know what I was doing or where it was going to go.
You know what I think too?
What I
Like,
had to
you,
say.
You might be similar to me in this too. I've always been the type that's been all about execution. So if I say that I'm going to do something, like I make sure that I'm going to do it. So I've been guarded in saying that I would do something sometimes, just because I don't want people to say, well, I remember you said you was going after
What
that.
happened?
Like, what happened? Man, that's the main thing. Like, I don't want people to always look at me like, well, we saw you say that. What happened? I've been more about execution. So if I say I'm going to do something, like, I have to get it done. Like, my mom and dad have always instilled that in me. Like, let your yes be yes, your no be no. If you say you're going to do it, like, your word is
be
your
a man of your
bond.
word.
You gotta be able to execute. So with the book, like, I sat on this book for so long that I finally said, like, I'm never going to get this out unless I do it in public. So I was in Panera, called myself eating one day and like typing, and I was like, took a snapshot of the screen with my first little words on it, and I was like, like, if I put this on Instagram, like, I'm going to have to deliver one day. You know what I mean?
Got to.
And it was just like, go ahead and do it. Like, I did it, immediately got a response. People were like, what you talking about? Like, what's your book going to be about? And it was like, that was kind of the validation I needed, but it was also like let my word be my bond. If I say that I'm going to do this book, it's going to have to come out sooner or later. You know what I mean? So,
definitely, man.
And it can't end up coming out like 3 months later. So it just kind of having the courage to do something, let your yes be yes, your no be no, and just do it. Like, start. Like, that's it.
Definitely, man. A guy that I follow a lot also is Gary Vee.
Yes,
I don't know if,
definitely.
Yeah, and he's big on that. And it almost seems like he commits to things so that he does do
That's
them.
it.
You know what I mean? Because he
That's
says
it.
like, I'll no way let someone hold that against me that I said I was going to do
And
this or
didn't
that.
come through?
And
Yeah,
it's like motivation to him, man. I even had somebody say to me years ago that they would buy things or plan for money spending or this and that to drive them. And at the time I was like, man, that sounds pretty frivolous and like careless and this and that. But at the same time I was like, that's the thing that works for this person, and that's something that maybe is the thing that certain individuals need that's going to get them on the right path.
Whatever motivates you. It's like, if that's the thing, and if you start to see a track record of success, if I've said that this is what I'm going to do and it actually made me do it, then I get it. It sounds frivolous, but it's like, hey, that's what I need to get going. So,
for sure. When it turns to the point that it's not talk anymore and it's reality, I mean, it can sound whatever it needed to be, whatever you thought it wanted to be. It's a whole different ballgame now.
That's big. What you saying, that it kind of makes me, I'm thinking about, to my last post on Instagram or whatnot, and it's like, I guess that's how I kind of post. You know, you kind of get into a groove of everybody's posting their successes, not their failures. But it's really like when I look at what I post, it's kind of like that what I need to keep going. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's
definitely.
almost like I'm posting for myself. Like
Definitely, and I've definitely tugged at that a little bit too, like wondering like, oh man, I don't want to be that person either. But at the same
Exactly.
time, the type of person that I am also is that I'm a very positive person. I want to spread
Yes.
positivity. One of the things I really latched on to that I heard from Gary Vee early on was that he said we need more positivity
Yes.
at every turn that we can have it. And if you're a person that can spread positivity,
Yes.
it is basically your duty,
Duty.
to put it out there and to give it to the people. Because
Yeah.
if I can tell people or put something out there that lets people know, hey, it's not that bad, or somebody's always got it worse, or just keep going, or anything along
Yes.
the positive kick, try this, start this, hey, what about this? Anything that goes that route, that's the type of stuff I would rather put out. So
Definitely.
anytime I've even dabbled with the thought of putting out something that might be somewhat negative,
Yeah.
that's kind of the reason that I don't. Is because I don't want anything out there that makes people be like, yeah, man, me too, and things are hard out here, and this and that.
Yeah.
Like, no, man, they are, but they
They
are
are.
for everybody, and they're a lot harder for
right.
so many more people.
You're right.
So I don't want to ever give off that vibe or feel like I'm setting anybody up to follow my footsteps of agreeing with me or thinking
Yes.
and falling into like a victim mentality
Oh, man.
or woe is me.
You're right. You're right. If you follow mine and I follow yours as well, but I think that's mutual. We don't post for every ebb and flow that comes through the news.
Right.
Everything that's meant to be an emotional reaction. It's something to be said about that, I think.
Oh,
because
for
all of
sure.
our friends are posting about it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All of the celebrities, everybody on Twitter is talking about it, but
They just
to
want
be
that
able to
attention a
remain
lot of times.
exactly to be able to remain steadfast, and it's like, yeah, I got an opinion on it, but I don't have to share it here.
Right.
Nothing's being changed from me complaining or pretending to be the victim. We grew up on the same streets. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
We went through the same stuff, so I get it.
Yeah,
It makes
and if we
sense.
didn't, we had friends or close family or whatever that we watched it or seen it. I mean,
Right.
granted, I always tell people, I mean, we grew up in a lot of houses we lived in and stuff like that. Maybe you guys as well. Definitely areas that was considered the hood at the time or
yeah.
is considered the hood now for sure with the way the Hilltop has went. But at the same time,
Unfortunately.
people had it way worse than me. It was
Definitely.
way more hood and way more gutter
Definitely.
in a lot of places than where I could have been.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was in those places at times. I was around those people at times, but there's always worse. And at
Yeah.
the same time that there's always worse, there's always people who make their way out of that or spin that
Always
into
make
a
their way.
positive light.
Always.
And I've had some crazy impactful people come into my life in ways like that. Like, so I've seen some people come from neighborhoods and do their thing and stuff like that. Like, that's a big part of, like I
Right.
said, who's going to come on here, you and other guests that people get to listen to that have kind of came from the same area that we have and come from areas where we're not supposed to be at the
Not supposed to
places
make-
we're at.
yeah, yeah.
Even though I'm nowhere right now, you know what I mean? Like I said, expert of nothing over here. But at the same time, to have the things we do have, man,
Yes.
to own a home, a nice
Yes.
home at that, in a decent neighborhood, to have a
That's
little
it.
bit of money in the bank, this and
There's
that.
a lot
to
to be
have
said about that, yeah.
from where we come from is a big thing.
It is.
For people that maybe grew up better than we did or didn't grow up with the type
Right.
of friends and surroundings that we did, it may not be that big a deal.
Exactly.
But as I got older, I started to gain that respect for it. I
Yeah.
started to be able to
And
see
just
it.
and just being the one, I don't know how many are in your family are success has made it to the place that you have. But even in your family, it kind of goes to what the book says: teach what you know, give what you have. Like in your family and in your circle and your nucleus, like I'm sure people look at you like Aaron's the one that got a house. Let me ask him how he did X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
like there's always and other things. So yeah, Aaron's married. Let me ask him what he thinks about this. So you may not think you have any influence, and I'm starting to learn that from putting out this book. But it's like you don't think you do, but so many people are looking at you. You don't have to be LeBron James to have people looking at you for, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, man,
what
that's-
the
that's
beauty
an
of this
awesome thing to point out,
podcast
man.
Is. It's like normal people.
Yeah.
You said you're an expert at nothing. I feel the same way. I feel like a nobody, but I got a book. So
Yeah,
it's like,
hey,
you
you're-
know, like I
you're,
just
you're
wanna
author,
spread
you're all
this.
that now, though, man. But yeah, I kind of struggle with that of the being an inspiration or being that type of thing for a lot of people because it's just at times I feel like people don't know how to take me. And I feel like they, I feel like and they always say that it's probably not you,
Yeah.
or probably not them, it's you. So I feel like I need to do what I can to approach situations a different way, talk a
Yeah.
little bit different. Even in one of my recent little rants on social media and stuff, I was like, hey, how about this way as opposed to this, what I normally say. Like, I normally say there's wolves and there's sheep.
Yep.
You know what I mean? How about I say there's bees and there's flies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And go to the honey. Don't be the fly going to the shit, going to the
Right.
bad stuff. Like, do what you can to attract yourself and the people
Exactly.
around you and everything to the positive things. And
Been
bring-
big on the
and bring-
positive kick. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I've noticed that.
Man,
Yeah.
the crazy thing is I've really been on that for quite a few years, but
Yeah.
a lot of times I feel like I said, because I'm no expert of nothing, I've done nothing business-wise or anything to be like this guiding light or this voice. I felt kind of a lot of hesitation to
Yeah.
put that out there or act like I'm somebody that people should listen to what I have to say or follow my instruction. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
So now I just, like I said, a lot of stuff with having a child,
Yeah.
things like that, just more motivation. And then I've had random people say to me, man,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you don't know it, but I do watch it from afar, man. Or
Definitely.
I appreciate who you are and this and that, and what you've shown me as far as how to conduct yourself and how to be a
Yes.
family man and this and that.
Listen, shout out to the people that do shout you out on stuff like
Oh,
that.
man, it's
because
amazing.
it makes all the difference in the world. Like, you don't think people are watching, but they are, or you think people are always watching with a negative spin. I think that's what goes on in all of our minds. If I say something too positive today, or if I show my family in this picture, people are gonna think I'm, sitting high and mighty or whatever. But people aren't really thinking like that. I think the people that need you or need what it is that you're putting out, they get it, they respect it, and they'll sometimes reciprocate it.
Yeah,
you know?
to me, those are the best
Those are
responses,
the
man.
best responses.
Because I felt like
Need it.
I didn't want to give off any vibe like I'm trying to put it out there that I'm something special. And even
Exactly.
now, man, I feel like that. I don't want anybody to think I'm anybody.
Yeah.
I'm nobody right now.
But
I'm
the
nobody.
thing is, it's like, get used to it, because what I've been big on is like reinventing yourself. So because that's what I do for my clients. Like, when I
Okay.
have a client, they think they just want a website built, but it's really about how do we want to get your brand to the world. So they might come at me with, hey, I want to say this about myself. It's a person, if it's a business, here's what our mission is, here's what X, Y, and Z is. But it's really about how do we want to get your brand out and how you're going to be received. So like, it's about a reinvention a lot of times. Like, you might think that you want to put out what it is that you've always done or what people know you as, but it's okay to reinvent yourself. Think about it. A year ago, it's crazy what the difference a year can make. A year ago today, I was not an author of a book. I didn't get speaking engagements because I had written a book. Today, I'm getting 2 or 3 a month. It's ridiculous.
That's
And
amazing,
It's
man. That's
crazy.
awesome,
It's
man.
crazy.
I'm so happy to
But
hear
it's
that
like
for you.
just putting this out, like how it changes your life. You become an authority, and you starting this podcast. That's why I'm so proud that you started it, man. It's like the reinvention of Aaron. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is.
I mean, that's awesome to hear from you, man.
It's a
I
reinvention.
hope you know how much that means to me,
Yeah.
because to hear you say it, like, I've been a person my whole life growing up that when somebody says something to me and they use the word proud, say they're proud of me, this and that, it's always kind of like,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I kind of feel
Hard to
uneasy.
receive.
It's hard to
Yeah.
receive. It's like, man, I haven't done nothing. You're telling me you're proud of me,
Yeah.
but what have I accomplished, man? Who am I? You know what I mean?
You're right.
But to hear it from someone like you, man, that I respect that much, that means a lot, man.
I
I appreciate it. I
Certainly.
appreciate it for
Certainly,
sure.
man. That's real.
But I definitely feel like what you're saying on the business side, I feel like that's something that's super impactful for the people listening that they might need to think about. I think basically in another roundabout way, what you're saying there with the
Yes.
reinventing thing, that might be exactly what someone is missing in their business, or that might be the thing that changes them and gets them to the
Game
money
changer.
making that they want or the expansion that they want or whatever, is by doing just that.
Yes.
That trying something different or reinventing yourself might be the link
Yes.
that they needed
Yes.
that really springboards things to where they want it to
That's
go.
exactly what's needed. So I feel like, and I see this, it's really hard, even, people in my family, people closest to me, it's really hard to get past what you believe other people think of you. So if you've always grown up being this person, your brand is X, Y, and Z, this is what I do, I've always worked in a warehouse, I've always done X, Y, like, it's hard to get out of that. And so even just thinking about the hurdles of me reinventing myself, a lot of us shudder or we, shut down by thinking, man, this is just my regular 9 to 5. Like, how can I say I'm starting a podcast? How can I say I'm going to start writing a book when everybody knows me as just so-and-so? You
Just
know
this
what I mean?
guy.
You
Just some guy.
That's it.
Some
So-
guy I grew up with.
So think about this. So now, it's crazy. You think when you reinvent yourself, you almost got to put everybody you know out of your mind because they're not your audience anyway. Think about it. This podcast is not intended for the friends we went to high school with. You know what I mean? They may listen, cool.
Yeah,
but that's
I mean,
not
I
gonna
hope
be your audience.
I hope they're in there too.
I would hope they are right.
Right.
But if they're not your audience. I heard one of the podcasters I listened to. She said, "Draw a line in the sand and be okay with where the chips fall." So if I say that this is me now and this is my part of my reinvention, and if you're not okay to get on board with that, that's cool. I'm not trying to cater to you. You're on this other side of the line.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that love what I do. They need to hear this, and that's who I gotta attract.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a point where honestly, I want to do it for both. I want to do it for both.
Yeah.
I want to do it for I want people to listen that don't even think they want to hear
Right.
this or that this is their type of thing, and I want them to hear it and be like, maybe they catch something from one of my guests.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's the biggest thing about this. Like with me saying that I'm nobody and I'm no expert in this and that, I feel like the people that I bring on are definitely going to give things that somebody is going to be able to latch on to
Definitely.
and be like, okay, that's what I needed, or
Right.
whether it's the motivation, whether it's an inside
Right.
or piece of information,
Yeah.
any of those things that really gets them going and
Yeah.
helps them with something that maybe they've been struggling with
Yeah.
to get something started.
And I'll say this from having, releasing this book. So a lot of the closest people to me are the ones who didn't buy the book, believe it or not. So because the ones closest to me don't see me as an author, they know me as just
Josh.
who does. Like we grew up playing
Got you.
basketball. Like, what you mean you're an author? Like those aren't the ones who bought it from me. The ones who bought it from me are the ones who I've met along the way, who know me as what I do today. I'm a web developer. I'm an entrepreneur. Like they grew with me, but the one, it's kind of like the people in the past are the ones that are more skeptical. Like, wait, what's he talking about in that book?
Yeah, definitely.
Strange.
I think you had
Like,
a
how much
few.
money he got?
I think you had a few though. I think you had a few
Oh, I
close
definitely
ones
had
for
a few.
sure, and I definitely
had
bought
to.
from
And
you.
definitely, there's definitely gonna be some roll dogs.
Oh
just-
yeah, for sure.
they
And I
gonna just
know.
support
Yeah, I
regardless,
know.
definitely.
No one's always talking in absolutes, man.
Right,
I know.
right.
I'm bad for that, man. I'm a super literal person. I interject in places sometimes and bring that in because I'm like, I see sometimes where, because I've noticed I needed to be better about that and like to not throw out absolutes of everybody does this
Right,
or nobody
right.
that I know does this or this and that, and I'm like, I need to be a little more. So don't
You're
take
right.
that as
You're
a
right.
fish,
No,
man.
no,
I'm
no,
sorry,
no,
but
no.
that's
But I
that's
have
just
to be-
something where
I
I
have to be more intentional with that too.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
right,
that's
you're
where I
right.
interject or whatever. And it just comes from me being literal, man. When I was a kid, I was like maybe 3 years old, and I walked back in the house one day and tell my mom she's a liar. Oh man.
You still alive?
Oh, and she raised her hand like she was about to take my face off. And and she's just like, "Excuse me, sir?" And I'm like, "You're a liar. You're a liar." And she's like, I'm gonna give you one more time, you to tell me what maybe you're talking about or something. We go from there or whatever. She had told me that summer was right around the corner. I walked down to the end of our block and looked down the corner. And I think as I've gotten older, I'm like, man, yes, that was ridiculous and that was a kid thing.
But it
and
stuck with you, though. That's crazy.
But it's like that. It just showed me that was something from my early age. It was clear to see I'm a literal person, man.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe I harp too much on the details or something, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I like it, man, because I think it makes me I hold value with the things I say, and I make sure that I'm careful with my words so
of
that
words.
I do what I can to give the message or the thoughts that I want to give. And it's crazy. I've talked to people about that, and I've told them, like, even on social media, if I post something about my wife or I'll
Yeah,
post
yeah.
something, and I did the 30 days of posting about her leading up to our wedding.
Yes.
And when I was doing that, I told people, you wouldn't believe the amount of times that I posted during that process or at any other time where like I'll start to type something and I delete it all out because I'm like, you know what? I want to mean every last word that I say. And if
Very
anything is even slightly not my own words or not something that I want to put out there,
Right.
it's not
Don't
going
put it
out
out
there.
there.
It's not going out there.
That makes sense.
So that's just something that's been a big part of me, man. And
It's gonna have to be big. You got a podcast.
yeah,
tomorrow,
hey,
you know.
now that people are listening to me talk, I feel like I definitely am going to try to do my best. And I know nobody's perfect. I'm definitely far from it. So I'm going to do my best. But at the same time, man, that's something that's been in my mind for a while.
Yeah.
And I try to do my part on. Another thing I wanted to get into with you and stuff, man. So growing up and stuff, what were your big influences, like music, sports wise, and stuff like that? And what did you want to be or think you were going to be as an adult? I mean,
you know what? I was like any other kid. I liked playing video games a lot. I grew up in the age of Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. So I was around what I felt like was technology a lot. By the time I became a teenager, my brother was really good at basketball. So I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. I wanted to play basketball too.
Shout out Jason Waters.
Shout out Jason Waters. Yeah, but if you remember, so when we were freshmen.
Man, that's why I said that.
So
I remember.
But here's the thing though. You don't remember this about me though. So we go to try out for basketball, and like in the back of my mind, because my brother had never made the freshman team, it was like tryout. So it was like, everybody as a freshman, you want to be on the JV team.
Right, absolutely.
You don't want to be on the freshman team.
Nope.
But if you get put on the freshman team, that's cool. You know what I mean? You do what you got to. I didn't make the freshman team, and because I was Jason Waters' brother, I quit the freshman team. And like I've learned some big lessons out of that, because looking back, like I saw the freshman team and I was like, man, I missed out. Like,
we had a blast, man.
Had a blast,
Yeah.
exactly. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
man, I should have stuck it out. But it was like I let ego get in the way, I let pride get in the way. And here's the other thing, I really wasn't that good. Like I enjoyed playing, but I was nowhere near his level.
We all felt like we were better than we were.
We
for
all
sure.
felt better than we
I mean,
were, right.
I'm sure even the ones that were super nice, I'm sure your brother, I'm sure a lot of other
Exactly.
people that were actually
Yes.
super nice felt like they were better than they were.
But so the fact that I quit that, it showed me a lot of stuff about giving up, like too early. You know what I'm saying? Taking myself out of the game too early. I've learned to humble myself. I went back and told, coach, I'm sorry. Like that was foolish. I was upset because I didn't make a team I thought I should have made, knowing I shouldn't have made it anyway. Like off the strength of my brother's name, I felt like I should have got it.
The
which is
crazy part about that is I feel like things were a little bit different for me, and my brother didn't have the same success, and he did try to play and played a little while and stuff like that. And I'm just now realizing that as you're saying it, I may have had that same mentality had I'd been dealing with that same situation.
Same
just
thing,
because
man.
that's when you're coming up, man. That's a time when your ego and everything is in limbo, man.
Limbo, and you care what the girls think.
Everything. You care what everybody thinks.
Care what
In
everybody thinks.
School, that's the biggest problem, man.
It's the
If that ain't
problem.
the biggest problem with when you're in school, is that you care
And here's
what
the thing,
everyone
don't
thinks.
talk to any of those people today. Outside of Facebook.
Man.
But I did learn also something in that too. I think I kind of got started down the right path. I would have never been a LeBron James. I would have never played basketball at the collegiate level. So without playing basketball, I actually started working. I was like, man, I need another outlet. Start working. Fell in love with money. And it was like, okay, like this, I can get a car by the time I'm 15 and a half. I can get my temps. I can, like things that I couldn't ask my parents to do. We're not silver spooners by any means. So it was like, I got to go out here and make my own money, do these things. And I kind of feel like that gave me a jump start into a lot of where I am today. So that did help. But I still feel bad for not staying on the team. That was foolish, man. That was foolish.
I mean, it makes sense. But so follow up with that. So growing up, you thought maybe sports was the avenue for you?
I thought sports was the avenue because I thought sports was the avenue for my brother. So I looked up to my brother so much that it became that. And it was like sports was my dream. My dream was quickly deflated when I didn't make the team. And it was like, okay, now what? So I was kind of in limbo.
Man, the crazy thing, I feel like everyone, I won't say everyone, like I said, because I don't like speaking to absolutes, but so many of us that grow up in not so fortunate neighborhoods, stuff like that. That's what it is, man. That to every boy especially grows up thinking that's the ticket, that's my way out, that's what I'm gonna do. I want to be a football player, basketball player, baseball, this, that, and things somewhat shift at time to time, from time to time, but for the most part, that's a lot of mentality. That was definitely my mentality. I mean, there's old VHS tapes of me telling my parents I'm going to be in the NBA, I'm going to buy them this house. And this and that. So, I feel some kind of way when I see people on TV that's actually done that and say, like, yeah, man, I promised my mom. I'm like, yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I did too. We ain't made it.
Oh. Yeah.
No, the thing about that, though, I think it's like, what was my thought about that? You got to post-produce this.
Man, it's all free.
I lost my train of thought.
Oh, you're good, man. It's all free. I mean, I was just getting at more so that us growing up in those areas just made all of us feel that way, that was the thing we were going to do.
Oh, that's what it was. It's about exposure. I think that's what it is. So coming from the city schools that we come from, we lacked exposure.
Right.
So, I feel like that's our dreams, either to be a rapper, to be a sports, whatever, an athlete, because we don't see anything else. The thing is that nobody at my school talked about being an entrepreneur. Nobody talked about having your own business. They talked about the same ones you always hear: fireman, policeman, lawyer, doctor, basketball,
Working a
whatever,
job.
working a regular job. You know what I mean? But nobody ever
Being
talked
an
about
employee.
business ownership. Exactly. Never talked about any of those things. So unfortunately, I feel like we got a late start into those things. But I'm glad I got what I did when I did. So
Oh, absolutely, man. I think that falls right into you agreeing with me about there's no victim mentality here, even though that is the
Can't be a
case.
victim.
That's just us realizing what it is as we've gotten older and
Yes.
become more experienced and have the knowledge now to see that it wasn't that it was somebody's fault in any type of way
Right,
that we
right.
didn't have those things, because a lot of times it was probably just that they weren't given those things either, or didn't
Right.
have that voice in their life either. So
You're right.
we just see it, we know it, and we want to do what we can
That's
to
it.
do better with the situation
Exactly.
at hand
That's-
now, and show people what the little bit that we've learned, and
Yes.
maybe try to do what we can for sure for our children.
Definitely, definitely. That's what it's about. It's like we're not, mad at our parents or anything like that.
No, definitely
Not
not.
mad at our community. It's about doing what we can and now spreading it. Like we're at that age. I feel like it's like philanthropy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we made a little bit, now give it back.
Oh,
like,
and the crazy part is now it seems like, and I think you talked a little bit to this on a different topic, but I was going to tell you, it makes me think so much of the same thing with like in business
Yeah.
or in just relationships or everything. It's so awesome to see when you do spread the knowledge, spread the wealth, do whatever you can to do that things that way. It just turns into better success for you.
It really
Which,
does.
which is the crazy part about it. Like, the more you provide someone with information, like, I'm not someone who's been crazy successful on the business side or had anywhere near the things that you have, but just random things in day-to-day life. Me sharing information with people
Yes.
has turned into them sharing information with me that helps me save money, or
Yes.
helps me live a healthier life,
Yes.
or do better with working out, or this or that,
That's
or
it.
like, I
It's
mean,
like
the small
value,
things.
value out, value in. It's like if I don't open my mouth and give what I have, how can I open my, you know what I'm saying? How can I be open to receive? Like nobody knows what I need. It's weird, but it's like the laws of sowing and reaping. Like if I
Yeah,
put
man.
out good, I invest, I get something good out of it. You know
Yeah,
what I
and it's
mean?
awesome that you have that mentality, man, because I feel like that's something that I see in a lot of people, especially successful people, that I feel like they are constantly open,
Yes.
open-minded to new ideas, to new thoughts, and to the biggest thing,
Yes.
and myself included, is to being open to information and being open to feeling like you can always learn something.
Yes.
And that was something like I remember, and I'm just now even thinking about it. Like when I first started having like a shift in mindset, when I first became an adult and stuff, that was one of the things I noticed myself repeating to people a lot, that I'm just now kind of coming across, is that I was always saying, it does not matter what age you are, where you came from, what you've learned. You can learn something from a toddler, man. You can learn something from
Yeah.
someone who came from the slums. You can learn from someone that doesn't speak your language. I mean, it
Yes.
doesn't matter, like, at any time. And I think I just maybe heard someone say that or something of that tune somewhere.
Yes.
And it just stuck so hard. And I was like, yeah, man, like, there's something that happens on a day-to-day basis that I just see someone doing, or they
Yeah.
kind of mention to me, and it's like, I might have had a certain outlook towards them, like, man, who are they?
Who are they?
But then I hear what they had to say, and I'm like, oh, man, okay.
Learn from it. It's
Okay,
it's about
I'll
being
lock
open
that
to
in.
Receive it, you know?
Yeah, man.
But just being open. I think people are just kind of, I don't want to say people, I've been that way myself. We close our minds thinking that if it doesn't come from X, Y, or Z, it may not have any relevance. I was big on that. I think I kind of got my first lesson in that maybe year 2012. So me and a few of my buddies, we talked about it, starting an investment group. And I was like, man, like here's what, I presented this plan. I laid it all out to them. Here's how much we'll give this month. Here's how much we'll give, whatever. By the end of 2 years, we'll be able to go and do X, Y, and Z. I was like, okay, the date that we have to be ready to give our first thing, this is the commitment, is, January 1st, 2013, whatever. Day of commitment comes, nobody shows up. And I was like, man, like that's crazy. Well, here's how fast time goes. 2 years passed, and I reached out to him. I was like, man, it's funny how time flies. We could have been this today. It was like, I was trying to be kind of facetious, but it was like, look how fast time goes. You don't think you're going to be anything, but look how fast we would have had this, we would have reached this goal. And so I was talking about, investment groups and investing in technology and stuff back then. Well, now you see Nas got an investment firm. All of the NBA ballers got their own investment. They're investing into startups and technology. And now it's cool to do it. So like now, my friends, like, they see value in it, but when it was coming from a nobody, it was like, we ain't gonna show up the day of. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
so I look at things like that a lot more now. Like, I gotta be open to receive from anybody, because while they weren't really open to receive from me at that time, I was a nobody, but I felt like I was giving them something of value. So I now open myself up to, value from anybody. My daughters, I learn so much from watching them every day. It's crazy.
Yeah, and
So-
I'm super glad you mentioned the investments and stuff like that. I mean, I saw where you talked a little bit about that in the book, and I feel like that's something that we could definitely provide people with some good value on as well. What are some things, man, that you recommend that people that maybe have a little money to play with, or something along those lines, to where they feel like, or if it's just something that they want to dabble in, man? What's some of your advice that you might give some of those people? Or
I would say go to where technology is going now. Most people have smartphones, especially our generation. They have smartphones, but may not be big into investing. There are investment education apps that you can download. Plus, there are investment vehicle apps. So there are. I'll talk about the ones that I use right now. So right now, I'm using one called Robinhood. Robinhood allows you to do free transactions. So you can buy stocks for free. Sorry, you don't pay a transaction fee. So you pay the price of the stock, but traditional
trading companies and all that, you get
pay
charged for
per
the
transaction, and that kept a lot of people out of it. So you feel like, man, I only got, I might have $500, but if they're taking, 60 of that just for me to make a purchase, it kind of keeps people out. It kept me out for a while, the investment game, so of stocks. But definitely Robinhood, that the technology has caught up, so it makes it a lot easier to buy and sell stocks, same day. You don't have to wait. You don't have to deal with the broker, all that. And then there are other things. So like, what's the name of the Acorns? Acorns is another good one. So
I've heard of that one for sure.
Acorns is an app on your phone and these are like, smaller, just to kind of get you to dabble in investing. But Acorns allows you to, every time you spend with your debit card or credit card, it rounds up the change and adds it to a stash, basically saving your Acorns for, whatever. And it becomes a part of your mutual fund, whatever, that they're growing for you. They invest it and it grows. So I've been doing that maybe 2 years now. And
do they choose investments for you? You choose investments?
They choose them for you. So it's like if you're employed or whatever, you might be a part of a mutual fund. Mm-hmm. So they kind of do the hard work for you. They invest it. They diversify your
Do you know if they offer any options of like, okay, if you want to choose this one that's maybe more aggressive, or this one that's based on tech, or this one's based on?
Exactly. Yep. So they have a range. So you can choose either the lower aggressive profile. So they're investing more in like raw material, gold, silvers, things that are going to have value, but may or may not grow as fast. But then you can get into something more aggressive where it's a little more risky, but they're investing in stock like technology firms, newer firms that don't have longevity but may grow fast. So it's a little bit more aggressive, but you can choose. I think I put it right in the middle, moderate. I don't see it as a long-term investment thing for me. I put it in there just so I can save something and take my family on vacation.
And maybe see how it goes also, right?
Yeah.
And if you have to move it, or
exactly
if it allows that as well. How long have you been doing investing? So how early on did you start throwing money in investing?
I actually started investing maybe 3 years ago. So I haven't been in it too long, but I've been doing a lot of research because I've never felt comfortable with throwing my money too much out of my sight.
Okay.
So like I just don't have the history in it. My family doesn't do investing, so I'm like, everything is
same
new
here.
to
I
me.
think
So
a lot of people where we come from.
That's
for sure.
it.
But
So
go ahead.
it's just a research thing. But I think the best thing you can do, and you can, Grant Cardone talks about this a lot. Save your money, stash your money, and grow it until you're ready to make a big play. So that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to save my money to make a big play, and I'll tell you what that play is here in a second. But the best thing you can do is live broke. You don't have to live really broke, but save your money on your own.
Live modest.
Live modest. Save your money so you can make a big play later. Save $100,000. Save $200,000. That sounds crazy.
Oh, it sounds crazy to a lot of people, but it can be done.
It can be done. Or save, $20,000, $50,000, so you can make a bigger play, like investment into real estate, investment into something, a startup company, start a boutique store, whatever. Start something that you normally wouldn't be able to do through one of those investment vehicles like stocks. But the next play that I'm looking at right now is franchising. That's where the real money's at.
Oh, really? I'm not super familiar with
franchising, man.
Really?
Yes.
What type are you thinking? What line?
franchising.
That's all I'll say. Is it food? Because for some reason, that's just what that makes me think of is food. But even though I know there's lots of things that are franchised, but food definitely is something that my mind instantly goes there.
Yeah. There's a guy, a financial advisor that I talked to. He attends my church actually. He said that one of his clients, and I won't say any names, I won't say the name of the company. One of his clients invested one time $15,000 to have a small equity in a chicken, grilling bar chain, whatever. He gets in on this chain one time, $15,000. He's a small part of the group that went in on it. He now makes $60,000 a year on that one-time investment. He don't have.
And he doesn't do anything.
He's not the manager. He's not like doesn't deal with employees. But he made that one-time investment, and he eats off of that every year now.
It's like one of the things you mentioned in the book, man, where the money is working for you.
It's working for you. He wakes up
passive
richer
income.
and he goes to sleep.
Passive income.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Man,
And
that's
these are
awesome,
like
man.
themes like this, because we've been kind of in tune to entrepreneurship, passive income, investing. Like these are like terms that most people on a day-to-day don't throw around.
Yeah.
But when it becomes familiar, it's like why have we not been
Makes so
talking
much
about
sense, yeah.
passive income? You know what I mean? Like it's just a thing.
Oh, it makes a ton of sense what you're saying. I mean, I didn't think about it for you. I mean, I did because I've always been a big saver. That's
Yes.
another reason I wanted to have you on here and talk about that as well.
Yes.
Is I was somebody from early on. The first job that I had, I was working at Sears with my boy Zach and my other dude DeAndre.
Yeah.
And man, just making the bare minimum. I think we was getting paid like I want to say like $6.55 an hour or something like that.
You were saving off that?
Well, no.
Okay, I was like, what?
Now, if I did that, I probably already have a show. If I was balling off the 655, I probably have a show
Right.
and be really, I'll be giving speeches and stuff. But no, I at that time, it was not long after I got out of high school, it was fast, man. It was quickly that I got hit with starting to pay my own bills and things like that.
Yes.
And it even grew even more of what I had to pay out unexpectedly at the same time, because my brother was kind of splitting the bills with me and my dad at the time. We kind of just all three went in on a place.
Yeah.
And then my brother his woman got pregnant. He decided that he was going to go live with them, and it's just like, oh, guess what? You got to pay half now instead of a third.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was barely making it, making $6 an hour, just trying to pay the gas in my car insurance, the cell phone bill, the this, that, whatever, rent, all that type of things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything adding up, I was struggling. I was barely eating ramen noodles every day, just making it happen, you know what I mean? I learned that from my mom. My mom can stretch money like that.
Yeah.
And but what I told myself during that time, like, man, don't let me get a job that gives me any level of comfort, because I'm saving. Because I was a saver when I was a kid. I would randomly, somebody give you some money here, a birthday, this and that. I was the type of kid, man, I would get 20, 50 here, there. I'd have it 6 months from then.
Yeah.
And I'd make a big purchase. I'd make a big play.
Make a big
play for a kid.
Make a bigger play.
I need that super soaker. I need this bike.
I don't want the little dollar stores and the Tootsie Rolls.
And meanwhile, my brother, a lot of other people, they were the type that they would spend it as fast as they got it. And it's just personality. There's nothing wrong with it, because at the same time, if it's someone who puts the work in to keep that money coming in, then that's your thing. But I was the type of person, I've always been very conservative with my money, and I wanted it to be there if I needed it.
Yes.
And back then it was just for a certain toy or something, but it developed into, as I got older, I'm like, that strap feeling that I had, I was like, I don't want to live this way. I don't want that to be what always goes on. So the moment I got on with a better gig and started making a little bit better money, I started saving.
Don't live it to the top of your
and I
means.
wanted, and I wanted to invest from an early stage, but I was the same kind of way that you say, and it's so crazy that over the years, man, I've imagined that me and you have a lot of the same similarities and a lot of the same thought process on things, and I never really knew because we haven't had these in-depth conversations.
Right.
But I definitely could see bits and pieces from you and hear certain things that you put out on social media, or when we would catch up for a quick second at a basketball tournament or wherever we linked up. And the same type of thing, man, that I've always been very wise with how I spent my money and trying to cut costs wherever I can. I don't need a brand new car. I don't need this. I don't need that. To this day, I've never had a car payment. Never. To this day.
Always cash them out.
Always.
It's the best way to do it.
And even to this day, I've never had any debt except for this house. Just buying my home was the only thing and it took me a while to talk myself into that.
Yeah.
Me and my wife we were actually looking for quite a while early on, and I was struggling with that. I was someone who always, like, my dad said something to me early on that he said, if you don't have the money in your pocket, you can't afford it. and it stuck. And I was
Stuck,
like,
yeah.
and so I kind of carried that over. And then I also watched how my mom would make money stretch and make it work for her and stuff. And it all came together and that type of thing. So, like I said, no car payment still ever to this day. Now, only debt I have is the house, and I feel like the crazy part about that is it's worth double what I paid for it now. And I know it sounds like I'm kind of bragging on myself,
No,
but at the
it's a
same
wise
time, I want
investment.
people to know that this is something that can be done. This
Yes.
is people can do, and that was one of the big reasons I wanted to have something like this as well, like this podcast, and be able to get this content. It's like there's so many people that maybe don't know because of they haven't had that guidance or that instruction that
Yes.
there's different ways to do things.
Yes.
You don't have to jump right into a car payment. You don't have to. I was blessed in certain avenues, don't get me wrong, like to get started. Of course, you hear me talking about working at Sears and paying for gas, so clearly I had a car.
Right.
I was lucky enough that my dad gave me an older car that he had, and I traded it for something that I could do on an everyday basis. The crazy part is he had given me an old school that was worth crazy money, and I traded it for something that was a luxury piece of crap. I had a 62 Impala cherry red that was, man, so nice, and I didn't feel like I could rely on it enough. I didn't feel like I knew it would get broken into or messed with, especially on the hilltop, man. You know how it goes.
It'd have
So
been more trouble than it was worth.
yeah. So I
yeah.
definitely I went the route of I just need to trade it for something I can drive every day. I was sick afterwards, and people approached me and stuff like, "Hold on, you had what? Oh, I would have given you this for it and this and that, blah
Yeah,
blah."
yeah.
But at the same time, it put me down the right path of getting started to where I had a vehicle I could use to
Rely
go
on
make
that.
my money and start taking care of my responsibilities and eventually lead to me saving and stuff.
That's
like
right. It sounds like we need to.
Louis, hey, no, go ahead.
What-
Yeah, man, I was gonna say we want this as real as
I was gonna
possible.
say, we gotta talk about the franchising kicked in.
Oh, let's do it, man. Let's do it. But
Offline, we're gonna get into it.
oh, definitely. I wanted this to be as real as possible anyway. So I was gonna ask you, hey, when you need to interject and stuff, Luis, just tell us, man. And even over here, when you need to check the cameras and stuff, if you gotta walk past, man, walk past. I want it.
Yeah.
I want it to be that.
It might be better if it's more raw. Or
Man,
just
it's raw.
and
It's real. This is what it is. I mean, the crazy thing I just seen a second ago, I was like, I told Luis I was worried about this. I had this plant outside because it was dying.
Yeah.
And then I brought it in. I started noticing like a little bug or two walking on the wall. I'm like, oh, I'm sick. I was like, I'm going to be sick because we're going to be
gonna see it.
recording in the camera shot and you're going to see something crawling across the wall. And I got these super light walls. And I just seen one a second ago. It was
Really?
like, yeah, it was
like
just
a
like,
little tiny little thing.
man, whatever those little things are to have all the legs. It's not like a spider. I don't even.
Centipede.
Kinda, yeah,
You just saw a
kinda.
centipede?
Nah, it was like
can't
something
stand
real
them things.
tiny, man. I don't even know what they're called. We looked them up once before, me and my wife. They're
Like a little
something that I
silverfish
guess
or
are
something?
common in basements, and they say in a
Yeah.
way, of course, they always want to tell you they're a good thing because they eat other bugs, which is the same thing they say about
Right.
spiders, but I don't get down with
Right.
spiders
I don't mess
either.
with none of them.
I don't want to get bit. But yeah, man, I'm just
Spiders
like,
outta
I
here,
want it to
man.
be raw, man. It's whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is, because at the same time, I just want people to know I think that just adds more to letting
It
people know
does.
I'm a regular dude with a regular house with regular situation.
Right. We don't care if a spider crawls on the wall.
Man, it is what it is. Would I rather that not happen? Absolutely.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I wanna just be raw and make sure we got everything in order and
I like it. man.
ask
Feels-
Luis about
it
the
feels
cameras.
raw.
What'd you say?
We're back on.
All right, so we're back on. But okay, so yeah, then going back into what I said, I saved and stuff like that. What were you saying about the franchising and all that?
So I'm saying we need to start talking about franchising online because it sounds like there's some opportunity in it. I'm getting a few other guys. I want some strong people that I'm confident in the way that they live, the way that because you don't want to part with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to make a big play next summer for our franchise. So just doing some research right now, researching the market. Columbus is one of the fastest growing places to raise a
Man.
family. Everybody's moving here. My realtor told me that in the next 5 to 10 years, 600,000 more people in Columbus.
Oh,
Can you believe that?
it doesn't surprise me, man. Every time I'm out driving, I see a new apartment
time.
complex popping up.
build 'em
I
everywhere.
see them pushing the city out further and expanding
Right.
more
Right.
big,
Greater
nice
Columbus will be way
suburban
bigger than what
neighborhoods.
it is
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was sick when I seen the. Did you see all those buildings that they're almost finished with now, just off to the side of 670? If you're heading west from out east, just as you come up to downtown, like right near the Kroger Bakery and
Oh,
the old
yeah.
Wonder Bread thing.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you see
yeah.
all those buildings that
Oh,
popped up right
yeah.
there? It's like a legit community now.
They're doing it right there. Franklinton District, all of them.
Yeah, but that one right there, I was so sick because I was like, man, I wish I would have had either someone or just even past that. I wish I would have took the time to see more what it would have taken to invest in some
Yeah.
in the real estate stuff there, because I used to drive past that. I still do. I drive past it every single day. I've drove past it for years going to work, and I always said, like, how is this wide open right next to downtown?
You could have had. I mean, you could have got it for pennies on the dollar.
And that's definitely, it was my thought years ago. I even said it to Tony as we were driving past one day, like, man, I feel like this is somewhere that should be built on, and like I wish I really was in that scheme of things, and that I knew how to go about it, because it's right here. As soon as you pop up anything right there, the value of them is through the roof. It's right there next to downtown, right next to the freeway.
It's just a fact of life, man. You live and you learn. You
Oh,
know
yeah.
what I'm saying? We
It's
didn't
a
know
learn.
until we.
Yep, it's a learning
it's a
lesson.
learning
I don't look
experience.
I say I'm sick, but at the same time, and it's not gonna tear me down.
Yep, that's it. One of the proverbs that I tell my friends all the time is like, the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago. Yeah, it would have been nice to invest back then.
What
you know
Jay-Z
what I'm
say on the
saying?
thing about Dumbo?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, but the next best time is today. Like, knowing what we know now, having what we saved and stored up now, don't miss your next chance. You know what I mean? Like, now when we get that inkling, it's like go time. That's why I'm like, let's put the cards on the table. We're looking at investing. Whoever wants to get in, like, let's do it and let's get a franchise. You know what I mean? Like,
Man, we'll get
time
together on
out
it, man.
for just-
We'll get together on it. You can you can run some things by me, and I
Definitely.
can take a look at it, and we can see what we can figure out for sure. Because I've been interested. I'm kind of at the similar path as you as well. That because I've been conservative with my money and all that, I also hesitated to get into investing and things like that. So
Yeah.
I for the most part, the only thing I even began to do years ago was I switched a chunk of it into a savings account that was a money market investing account, to where it made me a little bit. Excuse me. But when the market was better, when I first got in, I would make a little bit on it.
Right.
But it slowly died. Even with the market come back around now and stuff, it's pennies on the dollar
Right.
that I mean less than pennies on.
Most of those vehicles, I mean, unless it's run through your company, you know what I'm saying, if it goes towards your retirement, yeah, that's fine. The way to make a big play now is to just make a big play of your own.
Bring this in a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. The way to make a big play now is to really just do it for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Take a risk. Of course, it's better to take a risk when you're young before you start your family and all of that. But now that we are married, we have kids, I see it as just taking more calculated risks.
Absolutely.
And that's fine too. Like, my wife understands that there's some things that I'm going to do that she's going to have to be okay with. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, I know not to stretch beyond my boundaries.
Yeah,
Like, I have to take care of
I'm
them,
glad
too.
you said that too. It's like I know they're gonna watch, but at the same time, I feel like you go through your marriage, kind of realizing like I want to include them in everything, but at some times I'm gonna have to tell them after the fact.
After the fact.
I'm gonna have to.
After the fact.
Because
man.
it's different, the same way they do with us. The same
Yes,
way they do with
yes.
us. Because it's just that we sometimes have to trust that that thought and that insight
Right.
and that push for it, because that might be something that, like you said, and like we talked about in other things, that might be a missing link. That
Yeah.
might be something that we're sleeping on, or that we've kind of pushed out, and it's like, and we would turn it down if they approached us with it, but they run with it and it turns into something great.
Exactly.
Same thing
And
could go for us.
It's trusting your spouse. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing wrong with that. If you have a history of trust, and you know what I'm saying, that it helps.
Yeah, oh, for
If
sure.
you have a history of
Absolutely.
making the wrong calls, then I can see how that would be bad. But
Oh, and I would definitely say my wife feels like she thinks I have a slight history of making the wrong calls, even though I've been so conservative with the money. But random times I spend, and she's just like, "Yeah, you need to let me take care of that."
Oh,
and I'm just
man,
like,
yeah.
maybe I'll let you. Yeah, like now I do my best not to go in the stores or go shop and stuff like that. I've never been somebody like that, but at the same time, since I didn't for so long, man, I'll stop in a place every once in a while. I'll grab something I don't need. I'm like, you know what? I realized fast too
you
though.
got it, yeah.
I was like, I said, there's no point for me to go in these places. So I'm rarely in a store now, except for to get food.
Get
And
everything you need.
I let people do that. Yeah, I'm glad you said that too, man. Something that I want to run this by you, and this is just off you being a person that I respect the way I do it. So I've seen a lot lately, and this has been something that I've kind of noticed developing in myself. It's like when you know who you are,
yes,
the material things and all those type of things mean less and less.
they mean so much.
When you
less.
know who you are as a person and what you're doing and who you are in the world, who you are in your life, that stuff means less and less, because it's not like you're trying to prove anything.
it means
And at the
so
same
much
time,
less.
I feel like I can look at somebody and be like, oh yeah, man, they have this, they have that, they're just like this, their house is like this at the same time, but they might not, they're not living right, or they're not happy.
Right. They might not be happy. That's
Or
the main thing.
man,
Happiness.
happy is a huge thing, man. Happy is a huge thing. I
Man.
tell people all the time, I'm like, I hope you guys hear it, and when I talk, I tell it to my family, I'm like, I'm legitimately happy.
Yes.
And I think that's probably also a reason why I could start something like this and feel comfortable doing what I'm doing, because
Yeah.
that gives you that confidence and all that. But it's like when you get to a point that you're just living in that and being happy, it's like it's so fueling to you.
Yes.
And it's like you shut down so many negative thoughts or worries, like I was saying about worrying about the material things or what someone has that you
Outside
don't, or all that thing,
voices,
because
yeah.
you're comfortable with who you are.
Yeah.
And what you've become.
Yes, definitely. My wife and I, we decided to do things so different, man. Just in every aspect. So the
Get
way
into
we
that,
raising
man,
our
because that's
kids-
exactly what one of the
man.
next things I wanted to ask you, man.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, about the homeschool thing,
Yeah,
about all
yeah.
that, man. 'Cause
So-
I'm interested. I have a young daughter as well, man.
Yeah. So the thing that about my wife and I, we're big on agreement. So like I wouldn't try to force my wife into doing anything that she didn't want to. I want to hear her, reasons for doing things and things like that. Well, a year after we had been married, we had both worked jobs. She's a graduate of Ohio State University. The way that the world sets you up is that, you got two incomes. You send your kids off to daycare when you get them. Somebody else raises your kids for 7-8 hours a day. Then you see them 2 or 3 hours a night before bedtime. And so we had, I grew up with my mom at home and my dad was out to work. But I feel like time has just taken people away from that kind of style. And it sounds like it's old fashioned, but there are some ways to do it and make it work. So when we had our first daughter, I didn't want to really have the conversation because I didn't want to feel like I was, pigeonholing my wife. Like, are you going to stay home with her? But it just became like a natural outpouring. So my wife, we had our daughter. She fell in love with her. She couldn't imagine going back to work after her, FMLA, the 6 weeks.
My wife
And
was the
so-
same. When she had our daughter, she couldn't imagine going back.
It was
and so
unbelievable.
it clicked.
Yeah, it just clicked. So I was like, look, in the back of my mind, I had been preparing for this. Like, I remember there was a girl in college I went to school with, and she was like, this stuck with me. You know how people say something to you and it just kind of sticks. She was like, every woman wants a man that they can rest in. And I was like, huh? Like, I was like, whatever. Like, as a kid, I'm like, whatever, you're going to pay the bills too.
Right.
But-
You were thinking on a different aspect.
Exactly. But something about when it became real for me and it was like, okay, I have a wife now. We introduced our daughter to this world. Like, I was nesting. She was nesting, getting the house ready. I was nesting like, I got to have the finances that my wife can rest if she'd like to.
Absolutely.
And I know this isn't a reality for everybody, but
can be.
It can be a reality.
go ahead,
for everybody.
sorry to interrupt
It very much can be. So we were like, look, and we knew that we would get some flack from our family, friends. People were gonna be like, wait, why she went to college but she's staying at home now? Like, what's she going?
Yeah, and why are you taking it on?
People care about your finances.
Yeah,
they're
man.
in
The
your
family,
pocket.
random people want to give you like, okay, hold on. So are you paying everything?
You
Or
paying
why-
everything?
why-
Right.
Why
She's
is
living off of you now?
Yeah, hold on. What's she bringing to the table? This, that, and other.
Listen, if it's one thing I'm sure you've learned about marriage is keeping the outside voices out.
Man, they don't
You gotta
matter.
keep 'em out. They don't matter.
They matter enough to, like, from the people you respect. One of the big things I tell people, whenever someone comes to me with something that is a crazy thing like that, or something that's
Yeah.
maybe not their business, or someone tells me about some struggles they're having in a relationship or with their
Oh,
family,
yeah.
or somebody coming at them about something, I say, consider the source. Consider the source.
Yeah.
Because if it's someone you respect and it's someone, give it a little thought. Give it a little thought, kind of toss
You're
it
right.
around, see what you think about it, and then maybe give them a little feedback on it and see where it goes, whatever.
Yeah.
But for the most part, a lot of times you'll notice
Yeah.
it's someone that you either don't really respect like that,
Right.
or that they are in no place to tell you about your situation.
No place at all.
And I'm not saying that in any kind of way of us
Right,
being like perfect, or
right.
our situation is what it should be or this and that. It's more like, if I feel like you really provide value and you are telling me
Right.
something, same like I told you, a toddler can teach me something, or anyone, someone that speaks another language, I will take it in. I'll
Right.
take it in for sure. And if you got a good point, even if I don't want it to click, that's subconscious, man.
Right.
Later on, I'm gonna think about it.
You're right.
So it's not just about if they don't have all their life
Stuff
in order
together.
and this stuff
Right,
together, this and that.
right.
It's just like, consider the source.
Consider the source.
But continue with your thoughts.
So my wife quits her job. We know that she's not going back to work, and she's, got student loans. I got student loans. Like, we have bills to pay. But it was like that entire time while she was pregnant, I was like, I got into nesting mode. And I hear a lot of guys, my friends who are having kids, they get into that same way. Like I gotta provide.
Man, it's
So I was
awesome.
already providing, but it was on another level because I know now we're going to lose an income. So, long story short, she decides to leave her job. We now are raising our daughter. We get pregnant again. So our first two daughters are 14 months apart. And so at that point, we know, like, okay, she won't be back at work for a while, because at some point that you hit a critical mass, like, okay, then if she does go back because we say we need money, then now we got to put two kids through daycare.
Yeah.
That's almost the whole salary. So you might as well raise your own kids. You
Man,
know what I mean?
the people that I've come across that are seem to have a decent amount of their finances figured out, or just trying to be on the family kick and all that,
Yes.
that's one of the biggest things they've realized is that, okay, yes, you can go back to work
Yes.
and pay for that daycare, but you might be breaking even.
You might be breaking even.
You
So
might just be
why
breaking
not
even while
raise your own
someone else
kids?
raises your kid.
But here's the thing, though, and I don't say this, I'm not a woman, but I know a lot of women who have said this about my wife, because I've told them that, and their first knee-jerk reaction or response is, I couldn't be home with kids all day. And it's like, that's what you were created to do. And I'm not saying like a woman is just created to
Like,
raise
yeah,
kids.
you're not saying it like a sexist way.
No, like I'm created to raise my kids.
Right.
You know, like you're like, what do you
As a
mean you
parent
don't want
is
to?
more
You're a
what you're
parent,
saying.
right?
Right.
Like, what? I'd rather put my kids off on somebody else to raise them all through their life.
Hey, the one thing I will say to that is, like, so for instance, my wife at times is fed up.
Oh, definitely.
Don't get me wrong,
get fed
and I
up
know you're
too.
saying that too. But she's even dabbled with the idea of me staying at home, and that's
Yes.
another reason. That's like something like with this podcast or
Yeah,
something else,
yeah.
because I'm super close with my daughter, and I've always been a big kid person, just
Oh,
growing
yeah,
up and everything.
yeah.
So we're throwing around that idea as well too, and dabbling with that thought as well. But the thing is too, not that she doesn't want to be the parent or any of the type of things that
Right.
you're saying, but there's definitely different people too that it's just like, that's not their driving force sometimes the same way as other people.
Right.
Like, even, I don't know with you, but I've definitely seen other people. I've heard Gary Vee talk about it. He knows, like, my thing and the best person I can be for them is the entrepreneur, is
Right.
this, is
Right.
that. It's a better situation maybe if the other
Right.
person is
Right.
at home. So I get that
And
too.
we try,
but that's
and
just
we
me
try,
giving that in there.
certainly. And we try not to be like condescending. Oh, we stay home with our kids. Not at all,
Right.
because it could come off like that.
Yeah, and I think
But
people take it how they choose to take it.
definitely they do. And it's just that on the other flip side of that, it's like for your first response to be, oh, I couldn't be with my kids. It's like, dang, like I hate to hear that too, because it's like my wife is home with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And me being a business owner, a lot of days I'm home with them as well. So
Yeah,
I
and it
sit
sounds
there and we
foreign
do-
to hear something
It
like that.
does sound foreign. So it's like there's the way that the masses go, which is X, Y, and Z, and then there's this way, which we've chosen to take. It's a path a little bit less traveled. Yes, there are other people who are living like this, but it's very uncommon to be a black couple, African American couple, who's staying home, as an entrepreneur, staying home raising their kids. So that just sounds
Coming from where you
foreign.
come from,
Coming
everything.
from where we come from. So it sounds foreign, and that's why we got a lot of flack. Well, fast forward to today. Now we have 3 daughters, and my wife stays home. She takes care of them. I'm home a lot of those days because I work from home. But now our oldest daughters are of school age, so they're in the 2nd grade. We teach them together. It's like, why have the separation of grades? Get this, my 5-year-old daughter, her birthday is November, so she would be starting kindergarten right now. Like, she was not eligible last year, so she has a late birthday by,
Yeah, I know exactly
city
what you're
law.
saying.
She wouldn't be starting kindergarten until right now. The girl's already reading chapter books, like, because of the way that we can give her the attention she needs. So it's like,
And the influence of your other daughters.
the influence of my other daughter, it's crazy. So it's like, she's 5 years old, but she's starting the 2nd grade. It sounds crazy, but I see how, you hear those stories of, so-and-so homeschooled and they went to Princeton at age 16. Like, you kind of see how it works because they have
That's crazy. That's awesome, man.
individual attention. Like, so it's like all of these were the pros that stacked up to the cons of the failing school system where we live, the cost of private schooling where we live, the cost of daycare for 3 girls. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, when you weigh the odds, I think you're right in saying that people can live this way if they choose to.
Yeah,
just
because
gotta
you may
rearrange
just be
some
breaking
stuff.
even. Sometimes they don't even realize it.
Exactly. So it's like, weigh your life out, see how you can rearrange things to live the way that you want to live. If the way you want to live is to work while somebody takes care of your kid, fine, more power to you. Like, this is just the way that we chose, the path we've taken, and it seems to be working.
That's awesome, man. What type of schooling and stuff are you guys using? Are you using like an online thing that kind of directs you guys
do
in
it
that
all,
path? or-
We do it all ourselves. So we purchase curriculum online. So you can buy like homeschooling curriculum that does like, there's some math lessons in there, there's some reading lessons, things like that. But we do it at our own pace. So it's not like
You have to have
I don't
this
know
by
what
this.
I don't know what the names are of the online learning ones, but they do have online versions.
Right.
But we don't do that. We do our own kind of, we purchase the curriculum we want. We teach them that curriculum, and
Gotcha.
that's how it works. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. I mean, it takes me to another thing I want to talk to you about. I'm also someone that feels like the whole schooling path and
man.
all that, like it sets very few people up for success, man, because it's like a just almost it. I've heard people relate it to prison, which I won't take it quite there,
School of
but
prison pipeline.
yeah, man. But it's like single file lines and do this at this time, and you're told when to
Eat, get
eat
a
and when to
tray.
do this
Yeah.
and how to act and when to think and when to answer a question and raise your hand to speak and this and that.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, a lot of those things are important early on. The kid needs to learn that,
They
to
need
have some
discipline,
structure, some
yeah.
respect, some just different things that are going to put them on the right path in life.
Right.
But at the same time, it definitely clicked in my head, and it's like, I don't know what you think about like Kanye. I know he gets crazy with some of the stuff he says, no doubt.
Yeah.
But like he randomly mentions some things like that. Like some of the stuff he says is for sure off the wall, but some of the things he says is like it really clicks. And he had something not so long ago. He was talking about how like you know what I mean, like when a kid is young, we tell him like this is a coffee table.
Right.
And you're not supposed to stand on this coffee table and this and that, whatever. And he was basically getting at how like to take it deeper, it's like you train their mind to be kind
To
of
be limited.
closed and
Yes.
limited, to where it's like instead of just letting them grow and let that mind expand and
Yeah,
have
yeah,
them
yeah.
be open-minded to this and that, I definitely understand.
Definitely.
You gotta have the respect. You don't want a kid that's going to your friend's house and standing on a coffee table.
Right.
But at the same time, I think he was using it as a metaphor to say we do so much of instructing them and telling them how to live and how to
Yes.
behave that maybe we're limiting who they could become and what they could learn.
Yes, and that's one of the good things about homeschooling is we are allowed to be flexible and creative and let them just to kind of chase their own pursuits, so to speak. Of course, we get through the early reading, writing, arithmetic. We make sure they know how to read, they know how to understand numbers, they know how to write and things. Like those are the main core, but we're starting to develop their interest and see, well, this daughter's more interested in that. Let's get some stuff that focuses more on those things, while my other daughters may be more into another thing, versus sending them into a classroom like what I grew up, and I was considered advanced. I would be in class and literally I'd have to learn at the speed of the other 25 kids in my class. So it's like it's just not, it's
Man,
unfair when you look at it like that.
I got chills when you were saying that about your daughters, man. That's crazy because it makes so much sense. I've heard a lot of people say that lately, like, and Gary Vee talks a lot about that. He'll say, what about letting them double down on their strengths and really go towards what they're interested in? Because that might be the difference in your kid being a
Yes.
failing student or being someone that
Yes.
is outrageously successful because they're learning and interested in what they're learning about, and they
Exactly.
want to hear more about it. They want to read more about
You're
it.
right.
They want to write about their thoughts on it.
You're right. And that's one of the things Kanye mentions. I don't even know the track, but he says something like he's starting a homeschool. He got a Montessori. And if
Yeah.
you know anything about those schools, like they're literally schools that allow the kid to kind of go their own way. And we don't give our kids completely flexibility, do whatever they want. But it is, those type of schools are kind of like that. They go with the strengths of the child. It's more of an individualized plan. It's not, hey, everybody, we're learning this today. It's more of a individual. Like this person is more inclined to do these things. Let's teach them that. And so I get where he's coming from. Like he doesn't want to send his kid to a public school because, and here's the thing that another thing that you mentioned, they're kind of set up like prisons. Yes. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. So if you look at,
I think we all are.
We
slightly.
all are. But if you look at the powers that be who started these schools, I mean, think about it.
They wanted to train employees.
They got to train employees. They got to feed my machine. I don't need you starting a business. I need you to feed my machine. And so
The people that control the money.
the one that controlled the money. But check this out, though. It wasn't until maybe somewhere in the last 5 years of my life did I realize that there are schools that entrepreneurs, some of the biggest people in the city, send their kids to. They don't learn like the city schools learn. They don't even learn like the private schools learn. They learn things like leadership, finance, ownership. Like those are literally,
This
that's
is new
what
to
they
me,
learn.
man. This is new to me.
It's
Tell me
ridiculous.
about it, man.
Can you believe it?
No.
So we'll talk offline. I don't want to mention names and stuff like that. But
Yeah, that's fine,
But there
for
are
sure.
definitely, like that's where the entrepreneurs send their stuff to. It's literally like a social club. So when they go watch their kids play sports, like they're on the side doing business deals. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's that familiarity. Like I want to be around the people who I want my kids to grow up around their kids. if I wanna talk to the fathers at my school, I wanna know that we're playing in the same ballpark. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of a thing. And it's not like there's anything wrong with it. It's just that, like we said, we didn't grow up with that kind of exposure.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? So I didn't know these things until I'm in my 30s.
This is a big part of why I
raising
wanted,
kids.
why I wanted to dive into all this with you, man, is because I was really interested and wanted to know, like,
Yeah.
how you guys are going about things, and to hear that stuff about the entrepreneur type schooling stuff is
Yeah.
amazing, man. And I really wanted to get some insight on that. I think a lot of people get value from that.
Definitely.
It's something with them being homeschooled and that type of thing. The one thing I also want to ask you about, the place that I get kind of torn with that back and forth is, I'm like, do you also though want them to have the social part of it,
Social part, yep.
so that it doesn't create someone that is so affected when they are in social situations or as they grow?
Definitely. I remember in my city school, there was maybe one family of kids who like started off homeschool, I think, and then they came to public school.
Yeah, I think I knew a few of that.
Yeah.
a few
So
of those as well.
we, as kids in school, were bad anyway. We looked at them like they were the weird kids, and I think homeschooling has that stigma, like low social interaction, weird because they're not learning, non-school things at the same rate as school kids are. They learn more of the, interpersonal type stuff than they learn of the book stuff. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But so that is a big question we get. Like, how do you manage the social aspect? Well, there's what they call a homeschool co-ops throughout the city. So other families that homeschool, they have it set up to like one day of the week. And we've tried these. We don't do them now, but we did on our first year, just to kind of build that community, make sure that we were going about things the right way. And we've learned a lot from going to those, from the people who are more seasoned and have been doing it longer. But they have these co-ops, so where you can bring your kids there, and it might be one day a week. But the parents who are skilled in different areas will teach that day. So there was a guy who was a mechanic. He would teach the boys how to, change their oil. He would tell them how to get under the hood of their car. Like, those are the type things that they would learn. There were mothers who had done like cooking classes, and they would come and do things like that. So it's a little bit different, but it's still a form of learning. So there are co-ops throughout the city that do this, and in most major cities they have these co-ops. So we did those, but like I said, our curriculum now, like, my wife has gotten so good at it. She does, she purchases the curriculum, but she teaches at her own pace. Another thing that people don't think, oh, sorry, we're talking about social. I'll get on that in a little bit. But for the social thing, my daughters play sports, so they play basketball. They have done gymnastics. They've done ballet. So it's like, there are ways.
That was my thought as well.
It's, it's on the parent to make sure that they have that.
And they
social
probably, I'm not for sure, but do they have nieces and nephews of yours?
Yeah, we have a ton of family in the city.
Yeah, that they
I
can
could see
get
how
that
it'd
time
be
with.
different. Yeah, I could see how it'd be different if you didn't have much family in the city. But
sure.
every weekend, somebody's birthday. It's like there's
Yep.
always something going on.
Yeah, my only worry with that or whatever is that I always wanted to, with a lot of what I've heard and people say with their experiences with people they grew up around or things like that, it's like, make sure they're not too sheltered at the same
Right.
time. So like, make sure
Right.
that they still know how to be around kids or other people that aren't always going to say the
just
nicest
same.
thing.
Exactly.
Aren't going to say the nicest things to them. Aren't going to do this. They're not always going to be first
Right.
place. On and on and on. Those type of things.
Making
so
sure
that
that real world experience.
yeah. So it's not like a situation where some of the people that I follow, entrepreneur-wise and all that, where they get to the real world or they get in a real world quotes
Yeah, and it's like a
situation,
shock.
and it's a shock or it's like a punch to the mouth that someone doesn't treat them like their
Right.
circle at home or
Right.
the situation they grew up
Yep,
in.
and that's something we're still learning. Like I said, my two oldest daughters, they'll be 6 and 7 here in the next couple of months. So we just started. They're in the second grade, but we are learning. So it's like we're intentional about getting them around other kids because we do value that. Everybody brings up that social aspect. But here's another thing that we aren't too afraid to stand up for is that we don't want them getting everything that we got from a social aspect either.
Right,
So
absolutely.
it's a very I won't say it's controlled, but it's intentional. Like we try to have intent in what we let them interact with, because just like you want them to have social interactions, there's also such thing as having bad social interactions. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's like, I remember getting a ton of bad social interactions in elementary school. It's like, there are parents who, kids at that age who were coming to school, and it was like, I wasn't watching none of the stuff they were watching at home. And they were introducing me to stuff way before I should have been introduced to those things.
For sure,
And it's
man.
like, at this age, like, I want to protect my daughters, like when they get to an age
Let them
where
hear
they
that
can
stuff when
decide,
they
exactly,
when they understand what
when
they're
they
hearing.
understand it. But it's like I've heard, and you hear people post on social media, so and so came up to my my kindergartner and said, "Come home with me," and it's like, wait a minute, so there are. We protect them in that same, from when you look at it from a social aspect, yes, we want to make sure that they are being socialized, they're around other cultures, other, people, positive and negative experiences, but we also want to control some of the things that they're getting.
For sure,
We
for
don't
sure.
want them to just be, out to the wolves at ages 6 and 7.
Absolutely, and I feel like you said earlier, like how did we come from where we come from and end up kind of on the right path or on the right kick, at least for what we feel like is the right path or the right kick.
Yeah.
But it's like I feel like if you can set that stability early, man, and you can
Definitely.
because I think the major factor that's probably the same thing in you that was in me, that's in other people that have seemed to get on this type of path as well, is that those core values that come in early,
Oh yeah.
that's so impactful, and if you have those, and if you have some of the good hard hitting influences early on,
Yeah.
that can be what keeps you grounded, man, and keeps you, even though, like you said, me and you did go through being around those type of people,
yeah.
going to these schools, this and that, and it didn't
Right.
send us down that path. So it is still doable.
It's doable.
But the thing that I like that you're saying is that it's not controlled. It's just intentional. That it's like, if I don't have to expose them to that,
Exactly.
especially at an early age or at a time
That's
that
it.
they're going to get it eventually. Maybe it's better they get it a little bit later,
Right.
or that type of thing.
Right.
And I'm sure some people will disagree. You're always going to have
Yep.
the people that feel a certain way.
And this is the thing too. Like as you get older, I mean, there's so much I learned in my 20s that I'm like looking back at, like, wow, like I didn't realize how much that affected so and so from that experience that happened at an early age. You know what I mean? So it's like, older woman in my life told me, when I had my first daughter, it was like, your kids are literally like a blank canvas. So every interaction,
Right.
whether it be with other kids, whether it be with adults, like it's a stroke on their canvas. It's like you don't want them getting all of the wrong stuff so early that it affects them through their life, or like if I can protect my daughters from negative experiences, then I'm going to try my best to do it. You know?
Right, man. I think it's the same thing as protecting them from violence or protecting them from this and that. It's like
Exactly.
you have that in you, especially as a man, that you just want to do your part
That's it.
to really guide them in the right way and shield them when you can.
That's it.
And
Yep.
be the armor for them when you can.
That's it.
Also, that leads kind of into something else I wanted to ask you about, stuff like that. I feel like this is a big part of you, so I'm sure you wanted to talk a little bit about what is religion and your faith and all that been for you, or what would you like people to know about it or about what it means to you?
So, without being too preachy, because I ain't a preachy type. But
Oh man, I heard you say it. And I was like, man, I really respect that. And
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
because I'm not a super religious person, but it's more so just because I understand what you're saying. I felt like I did
Yeah.
when you said I didn't want the book to be too Christian.
Right.
And
don't
I was
want
like, oh man, that's a good way to go at it.
because I'm very much not like that. So I like my life to be an example. So like if it's anything that I do, or if anything that I'm trying to tell somebody, like I want them to be able to see it in me first, not point somebody to something that I'm not. So I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. Like, I believe God. I believe heaven and hell. Like I believe those things. But I'm also strong in my beliefs enough to say that I respect somebody having another opinion, because if somebody tries to sell me on their faith, it's probably a good chance I'm not going to budge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I can't be mad. That's why I'm not a big preachy type, because I'm not mad if they don't take what I say either. You know what I mean? So it's
Gotcha.
it goes both ways. But definitely a believer. I attribute all of my life's success, believe it or not, especially my success as of late, to my relationship with God. So, and I'll say it like this, because a lot of times you'll hear people talk about the universe, and especially in this kind of startup phase and podcasting, and they talk about you put out good value, things come back. Like a lot of these principles that they teach, but they don't say, Christianity, they're Christian to the core. So a lot of these tenets and principles that they talk about are already in the Word of God. They're in the Bible. So I've seen these, and to hear them from, these seemingly non-Christian people is like, wow, like I've been learning that too. You know what I mean? So it's good that, you know, we can see eye to eye on these things.
Oh man, it's a big part of why I wanted to ask you about this, have this conversation with you. I'm not someone who is very religious and all that. I did grow up a little bit in it, and my mom had us in church every Sunday, and it's still a huge part of her life. Not so much with my dad. He definitely believes in God and was raised Christian as well.
Yeah.
And at times will mention it to me or say like, oh yeah, man. Or I see a post from him every once in a while on Facebook or something where he kind of thanks God for something or says that someone should thank God for what he sees when he looks out the window today.
I think that our generation, us millennials and younger, I don't even know what they call after millennials, but we're very much a works-based. We give respect to works. Like, we give respect to what we can see. Like, if I can see it on you, I can see this. Like, we don't put much faith in the unseen.
Yeah, because we can see everything nowadays.
Because we can see everything. Everywhere. It's cameras everywhere. You got social media. You got, like, that's what feels real to you. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important. I feel like there's a huge falling away. Like we're just not into it these days. You know, a lot of in technology. Oh my gosh, man! I grew up. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the tech space. We're such logical thinkers. Like, if it's not numbers, if it's not written in the code, it's not real. So there's a ton of atheists in technology, in my experience, from my experience, a ton of atheists in the startup space because the unseen just isn't real. You know what I mean?
I mean, it makes so much sense to me. I mean, I think that's kind of something that went the path I went. And I know that it's super disrespectful when I see people say stuff, but in a way, it's like I see people that do get disrespectful with it say that it's like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they say it's like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Which I get their point. Like I feel like that's what you were just saying. You see where they're coming from, but at the same time, you feel a different way.
I feel a different way.
You have a strong faith.
So the way I see it now is I look at, like, I have an understanding. So science, you know, Christianity and science, that's two of the big kind of clashing things. Mm-hmm. But here's the way I look at it. I look at it as science is trying to catch up to all that creation is. So science is just the observation of laws and creation that has been put into place, and you're trying to explain it with science. So this is the part that's trying to figure out what already is. You know what I mean? So science is trying to figure out what already is, but we'll never get back to the God particle or the Big Bang or the way that I'm practically a flat earther too, but so it's like, but seriously, like, it's like they're trying to figure out. That's
probably somewhere where we differ, but go ahead. Go ahead.
But it's like they're trying to figure this thing out when I feel like the book, it's all in the book. It talks about it. You know what I mean? But people don't want to read it because it's written in a older language or it's been translated a few times. It can get weird, but
yeah, I like everything that you're saying. Go ahead.
It's real. No. But the thing that I've learned, so in my experience with my family, with my business, when I look at some of the more base principles, the more base spirit, like what I call spiritual law, nobody questions why, when you put a seed into the ground, why it grows. Like, what technology is in a seed that tells it when it touches soil, it gets a little bit of water and some sunlight, that it grows into a big tree. So they try to explain, what the DNA, scientifically, the DNA of the seed tells it where's the intelligence in a seed? You know what I mean? So it's like, the way I see it is that there are spiritual laws that are more real than anything that we can see. You can't see why atoms interact the way that they do, but they do. Mm-hmm. We don't know why DNA does what it does, but it does it. And so I believe more in that because I see creation versus the trying to explain of creation.
Yeah, man, what you're saying is clicking with me so hard. It makes so much sense because it's weird that one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about all this is like, it's weird how this stuff has kind of been coming back circled to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I was raised in it a little bit, and then for a big part of my life, I've kind of been of a non-believer. Not necessarily a non-believer because I still definitely believe in something being out there. I think I mentioned that to you one time. I don't know if you remember. I got in a car accident.
Yeah, and I hit you up.
Yeah, I got in a car accident, and I was like, man, I don't know who's up there. I don't think anybody does, but whoever it was, they were looking out for me today.
Yeah.
I had another situation like that happen the other day, man. It was crazy. Luckily, this time I didn't wreck my car, but I was on my way to work, and randomly the light will change just before my turn, and I'll take that turn and like a shortcut, basically. So that happens. I take that shortcut, and the craziest part about it was so instantaneously that literally in my turn, I'm hearing all this screeching, and I'm like, man, this is early in the morning. Like, who's out here peeling out like that, like wilding out? Like, what is going on? I look back through the window, and I see a car just spinning, flying, coming
Towards the back of your car.
towards the back of my car and all through the lanes that I was just in. And when I say flying, I'm talking 60, 70, like cooking, flying, because I was on a road that's like 50, 55 mile per hour, and people fly 10 times faster, especially in the mornings for work and stuff like that. And the way it happened, and after I actually got out of the car and like kind of processed, because I stopped and I tried to, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was okay and things like that. But it was like, as things started to process, I realized that if I had not made that turn, it was inevitable that I was getting hit, because the way that it happened, I was either going to get hit head on driving towards him, or I was going to get hit head on sitting at that light that was changing that I decided to turn. So that happens. And then when I pulled up there, what had actually happened, the guy was flying. I think he tried to punch either a yellow light or red light, whatever. And a guy was crossing the street. He clipped the guy walking, crossing the street, clipped his leg. Luckily, the dude didn't seem like he was hurt too bad, but he clipped him and then just spun out of control, I think, because he swerved to try to miss the guy.
Got you.
He spins all these times, flies through all those lanes, my lanes, like I was saying, slides up in the grass maybe 30, 40 feet and slams into a pole. And he actually was okay too. And I seen, like, when I passed his car, he had like his packed lunch on the dashboard and stuff like that. So I know he was just probably flying, trying to get to work on time or whatever the case was, which I kind of was too. But it was definitely an eye-opener, and it was another reminder. But even situations like that aren't my only reminder. The things that you were saying about, like, science and stuff like that, a lot of what I've been listening to lately and consuming has kind of talked about that. And there's been certain conspiracy theorists and then also just everyday people that whenever someone comes to them with a scientific fact, they say, maybe. And it was happening on Rogan, when I was listening to Joe Rogan. And Rogan's like, well, what do you mean? He's a very scientific guy. He's had a lot of scientists on there, and he's looked into a lot of stuff himself, as well as had some of the biggest, most well-renowned scientists on there explain the things to him to where he feels pretty comfortable in them. But it's weird how even when I hear him going in depth with, like, well, it's actually this happening, this, some of it, a certain amount of it, you can measure.
Some you can measure.
And going past that, a lot of it, you also just have to have faith in.
You got faith in science.
In that, that you believe that those measurements and the way that they're found in this. And the crazy part that really was a game changer for me lately was, even if you have that exact data in front of you and the tools to measure it and this and that, what says that all that doesn't change in 6 months? Because we see that all the time. 6 months from now, a year from now, they say
they got more technology.
It's actually not this way, how this is done and how that plant grows and this and that. It's actually this that now we can measure with this new technology and stuff like that. So it's like, at any time when we're saying something is an absolute, it's really not an absolute.
But the one thing that doesn't change is creation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, like I said, in the faith big enough to know a lot of what you know and to speak on a lot of what you're saying.
And I'm not even huge into it either, but I would say this for anybody who's listening and wants to know, like, I think it's important that you just make the first steps. Like, do your research. Like, you research anything else. You know, you binge watch, a show on Netflix. It kind of, unfortunately, takes experiences like yours, like a near-death experience or a near catastrophic experience, to say, wait a minute, like, what's eternity? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is after this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I was taken out today, like, where, like, it takes that. That's why a lot of times you hear somebody on their deathbed will say, bring in somebody, whoever they remembered that knew something about God. Like that's when they want to get real. Like,
well, and it's crazy too that whenever people go through those near-death experiences, they pretty much come back telling that there was something, or that there was a light, or there was this or that. That's pretty crazy too. And for me, it wasn't even like, at times those were reminders with this stuff with, like, the cars and stuff like that. Yeah. One of the biggest things was, like, I hate to say it like this because there's so many people that have been way worse off than I am and are way worse off than I am. But I got really sick for a long time, and I definitely felt like I was dying. And I went from being 209 pounds to being like 132.
I remember that.
Yeah, so at that time period, like, and it was like everything that I was trying, everything that the doctors were trying, everything that was going on, I was just going through these crazy digestive issues after taking an antibiotic. And it was like everything that happened there was so much that I couldn't explain. There was so much that I didn't know the answers to. And then to go to the doctors when before you run into a situation like that is something where you just expect that they're going to have the answers
Right.
for you. They're going to
They ain't
have a
got the
fix. They're
answers.
going to have a medication.
They don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
man.
So I went through that, and it was like when I started to come out of it, it was crazy that it hit so hard to me to feel like I couldn't explain what was turning me around, man. I really couldn't explain it, and then I definitely had done tons and tons and tons of research, and it's why I know a big amount about digestion now and
Yeah.
nutrition and things like that or whatever. But at the same time, it was like I was playing a guessing game, man. I was throwing darts.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just hoping something clicked, and eventually it just kind of started turning around for me. One of the biggest things that I will say helped, and it was another thing that just kind of points at us not really knowing what the powers that be or what is really going on in a lot of situations. It was like I heard somebody say the one time, they said, when you're talking to people about it, this was from somebody who had been really sick and maybe was still sick at the time, and they were saying how they had shifted their mindset to telling people, I've been sick for this long. They decided to start telling people, I've been getting better for this long. So they shifted that mindset, and they were saying
Sounds
you
like
wouldn't
faith.
believe that the impact, and that's crazy that you say that's faith, because I didn't really think about it that way, but it makes a lot of sense. But so I started doing that, and I remember like either that day or the next day, somebody got in a conversation with somebody I hadn't seen in a while. I think they saw how bad I looked and stuff like that. Kind of was talking to me, and I was like, yeah, man, I've been trying to get better for like I just kind of I was
changed your
hesitant to
speech.
say I changed my speech a little bit, but I'm like I've been trying to get better for like maybe a year and a half, this and that, whatever the situation is. And from that moment forward,
Yes.
it snowballed, man. I started getting better. I started doing
Positivity.
better. And I think part of that for sure, and the people that aren't on the faith kick of it, they would say that's more of a maybe because of your mindset and now what we're starting to learn about how much we can control of our bodies with our mind
Yes.
and with our thoughts and our
Yes.
speech. So, and I'm definitely a big believer of that now because that stuff's been hitting hard with me like
Definitely.
you wouldn't believe.
It's a biblical principle. So the Bible says,
And it's crazy that you said it because I don't know that.
you don't know it, but there are people, that are going out and selling these things as principle, but it's biblical. So before so-and-so said it on TV, it's been in the Bible. That's why I always go back to the word. But literally, the Bible says there's life and death in the power of the tongue. And it sounds like, that's just some old proverb. But it's like, no, like literally the words that come out of your mouth, you speak life or you speak death. So when we're presented as a believer, and my understanding of the word of God, the way that it's written, as a believer, I literally try to live my life the way that the book says, because it's a book that helps you to live a better life while you're here, helps you to be more purposeful in your interactions, helps you to raise your kids the way you want to raise them. So when I say there's life and death in the power of tongue, it's literally like, when I'm presented with a bad situation, how do I respond? Do I respond with life or I respond with death? Do I respond with faith or do I respond with fear? So if I heard today, and this is, whatever, someone's like, man, you got pneumonia. My immediate response is where I stand. Like, what have I been filling myself up with? Positivity? Do I respond in faith? I ain't got pneumonia. Whatever, I'm getting better. I'm going to get better. This isn't going to last. But the thing is, media conditions you to hear if somebody said I got cancer today, it would sound detrimental, but it would be how I receive it. That matters the most. Do I receive it in fear and doubt? Oh man, how much longer I got to live? Or do I receive it like, I'll beat this?
That's amazing that you
It's
say that. Man.
literally life and death in the power of your tongue. So it's when you made the change in your mindset, then it came out of your mouth. You can mull over it in your mind all you want. Oh man, will I ever get better? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it's the moment that you spoke. Like I said, life and death in the power of the tongue. Your voice changed, your language changed. And from that point on is when it got better. So
It really did.
This
It really
and
did,
other
man.
principles are in the Bible.
It
All
really
of the
did.
money stuff.
And I'm so glad you said that because I didn't know. I had no idea that was from
Yeah.
that was in the book and stuff, man.
It
In the
is.
Bible, I should say.
It is.
Things like that, and that's another thing I've heard lately. And I also like that you said basically what I was going to say when you were saying that is I was going to say I always just looked at it as positivity, negativity, but it makes a lot more sense that you say it also kind of has deeper roots than
Yes,
that.
yes.
And a lot of things have been, like I said, bringing this full circle to me that maybe it's crazy because a lot of people will probably look at this a certain way, but I know that I think me and you might have had some conversations back in the day, Larry, Dwight, everything was like, I don't read books, man. I don't read books. A lot of people do. I don't read books.
Yeah.
I hate that I don't, but I consume a lot of content. That the thing that's awesome now, and that's why I want to do
Yes.
something like this, is because, like I was telling him, something I heard recently is that not everybody has the time to read or can even read.
Right.
Not everybody has the time to sit down and watch something. This and
Right.
that. Everyone can listen.
Everybody can listen.
Everyone can listen.
Everybody can listen.
And then now they're even translating things in different languages and that. So I
Yes.
hope that if we can give anything to people with something like this, from something like this, that we can get it out there and it helps people.
Certainly.
But definitely on that route, it was like, to hear you saying those type of things, man, to hear you saying that stuff is in the Bible, it makes me want even more when I've already wanted to read the Bible.
Yeah.
It makes me want to at least like give my effort of doing like one of those Bible in a year apps
Right,
or
right,
something
just
like
to
that.
see
Whatever.
what's in there.
And that's kind of been my thought process for a while now. Like I've heard a decent amount of it throughout my life from my mom, from people I've been around. Another crazy part about all this
Yes.
is at all times I've always had someone right next to me in my job and in my life that is deep in their faith, which is
Gotcha.
crazy. Which is crazy. And maybe off of numbers or percentages that makes sense. But at the same time, like literally at my job,
not a
which we only have a super small amount at max in the position that I'm in. We had 4 people there. Now we only have 2. Either the people in that circle or the people that literally work sitting right beside us that we interact with every day.
Yeah.
There's always been someone that is like deep in their faith and has given me little pieces here and there. I've had interesting
Keep you on your
conversations
journey.
with.
Yeah, yeah.
And the awesome thing that I can say in all of them that I've always seen in all of them, and I see in you, is unwavering faith.
Unwavering faith.
That's pretty awesome, man. Because
I appreciate that.
whether I believe it or not, or whether someone else believes it, or what they challenge you with, and like I said, I mean, you being a logical person and a lot of people being logical, stuff like that, it makes a lot of sense that people would question things. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm from an early age, I was a literal person. So you to tell me about this guy that's in the
Right,
sky and
right.
this and that, blah, blah, like as I got older, a lot of those things were hard to latch on to. But it's weird now that like all this is coming full circle in terms that stuff that happens, stuff that I hear, and then getting older and getting more knowledge that I'm now like, man, we really don't know everything
Yeah,
we know
we
or
don't.
can't explain. And the things that we can't explain, it's so weird to hear other people and someone like you say that stuff is actually already explained in the Bible.
explained.
Or we kind of already knew that.
Yeah.
That part has blown my
Blows your
mind
mind.
because I never knew that.
And that's my thing too. I'm not a huge reader. I'm not a heavy reader in the Bible or other books. But the few books that I have read started to show me that you don't know how much you really don't know until you start to see something new. And it's like, wait a minute. So when I put out my book and I give away more than I sell, I literally give this book away because I just want people to see that it's thin, it's only 60 pages. Once you read it, you'll come out with something that you probably haven't thought of. And when you start to realize that, wait a minute, there, you know, like you said, you're kind of interested, maybe going and visiting the Bible, like there's so much in there that you probably just haven't thought of. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, but another point that you made, like not everybody wants to read. Reading the Bible is not a requirement of salvation. You know, what I believe as far as salvation, you know, that there's a life after this. You know what I'm saying? Like there's more than just this life here. Reading the Bible is not a requirement of that. And so, like you said, people can listen. You can listen to like the people that have been a part of your life and find salvation. There, you can listen to the people that were on your job and deep rooted in their faith and find God. You know, like there's no written rule that says you have to attend church every Sunday. You have to give this much money every week. There's none of that. I learned that late in life. I joined a
And
new
that
church.
religion kind of builds that in sometimes.
Right. I think one of the biggest deterrents of people from the faith is the people of the faith. So you watch.
Or the people of the religion. I think that's kind
Exactly.
of how I term it.
Exactly, the religion. You're right,
Yeah,
you're
don't
right.
get me wrong. I hope I'm not like
No.
correcting you.
Semantics, you're good.
But that's kind of what I feel like is that's the difference there.
That's it.
But go ahead.
That's
with
it. You hear a lot of that. Religion versus relationship. The religion
faith.
is like it's a weird construct that can be bad at times. You think about it. You watch people get stuck in traditional ways, things that they're used to, teaching things how they've always been taught, even if they're wrong. And so, like I said, it's a big deterrent. So now you got the funny, you know, videos on social media, and you think if your idea of church is people dancing around and going crazy, that might keep people out of there. You know what I mean? Or if your idea
Never
of
thought
church is all the videos I see from, you know, the people that go to church, they're all quiet and they're singing these old songs, they're saying words I don't know, like that could be a deterrent too. But just like you said, like you're building a platform here. Like some people, this may be the first time they hear that, you know, they are still millennials that are young, raising families, entrepreneurs, and believe that God is real. You know what I mean? So,
Man, like it's crazy because what you just said about what you wanted from the book is exactly what I want from the podcast.
Yes.
That's why I think it made so much sense, and I'm so glad we did this. Is because I felt like I wanted something that could maybe provide those same type of things or be that same type of
Yes.
avenue, man.
yes, that's it. And I believe your platform will grow to there. Listen, when I put this book out, I literally called myself putting this out because I have one-on-one conversations with a lot of my friends, and it's hard for me to remember everything I wanted to say and tell everybody every time. So it's like, let me just put it into a book, and maybe I can help other people too. And so that's really what it's about. It's not about becoming a bestseller. It's not becoming, you know, rich from this book. It's literally to spread my philosophy about how I've grown money, how I've created multiple streams of income to add stability to my life. Putting this out though, taking the risk, becoming vulnerable, it makes you feel so vulnerable doing anything like this. That's why I said I commend you for starting this podcast. There's a vulnerability you feel with putting out something that feels like these are actually my words. I gotta, you know, put this out to the public and be critiqued on what I say is the way I live,
Take it all
or
in, yeah.
this is how. So it's been weird to put it out, but the feedback has been overwhelmingly good. Like I haven't gotten any negative feedback. Maybe there's more, maybe there's some to come, but the people that have actually said something to me, have sent me a DM or something on Facebook, life-changing stories. One girl, I don't even know her, but she reached out and I posted most of the messages I got on Instagram just so people could see some of the testimonies, but a woman was like I saw you post this on Facebook. Like, we don't know each other personally, but I've seen you in the community. Every time I see you, you're with your family. Like so when I saw that you released a book, like it was a no-brainer. Like I was going to pick it up. So it's like we said from the beginning, like you don't really know the impact that you're making. You don't know how many people need what you have. So that's why, like I said, I'm honored to be on this podcast.
Man, that's
This
two
is
things that
huge.
exactly lead to something I was thinking about as we were having that conversation, and then something else I wanted to get into with you. I heard you mention it, and it's exactly what you just explained or whatever of your walk.
Yes.
Your walk, man, and you said that that's like an important thing to you or whatever. And I feel like the crazy part is like that's a part of faith. I feel like
It is.
but at the same time, like I've had that,
Yeah.
and even though I haven't always related it to the religious aspect. I've always been a person I feel like, man, if people could take something just from from my walk, man,
Right.
from how I conduct myself,
Right.
then that's exactly that's who I want to be, man.
And I think
that's how
most
I can be
influencers-
content or I can be happy.
And I think, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think
No, go.
most influencers feel that sense of, I want more people to be like me. Like I've found success in X, Y, and Z, and now I want to share that success. So it's not only religious people want to share their walk and make people feel good about it. Like no, but it is based in,
Yeah.
you know, faith-based spreading of the good. Like
Yeah,
I'm feeling so good right now. It's not natural for me to hold in the good. Like I couldn't tell you. I tell my wife this because she sometimes nags me about the house being whatever. I don't do something around the house, and it's like I tell her, Terry, it's like you worry about the smallest things. Like I couldn't tell you the last
same
time.
conversations, man.
Aaron, I couldn't tell you the last time I woke up worried about anything.
Yeah.
Like it's just a great place to be in life. It's not that everything is perfect. It's just that I've gotten to a place where it's like, okay, finances are stable. Like my family's here every day. Like I got clients. Like there's something to be said about that. And like, I'm not going to worry myself over little stuff anymore. Like,
Yeah. The crazy thing is I have those same conversations, but it's weird that I'm bad at times for nagging on little stuff because it's because this is our first daughter.
Got you.
And our first child or whatever. And at times I'm like, we got to set the right example, man.
Oh, yeah.
So this laying here, this doing this and that, like I was brought up a lot more around kids.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more around kids. She was the youngest in her family.
Got you.
I was the youngest for a while. Then I had a sister. Then I had some little brothers later on, to where, and dealing a lot with my nephews and niece, or my nephew and niece. I wanted to make sure I'm always giving a pretty decent example and
Right.
and making sure that I'm not putting our daughter on a path, or we're not putting our daughter on a path to be like, oh, it's okay to walk in and leave this laying here and leave food out sitting here and this and that.
Right.
So I'm like on both sides of that. On the flip side, the part that I am more on with you and that I'm the one having those conversations with her is that when she does come to me with other stuff, like people coming at her with certain things, small things that happen in her business, small
Yeah.
things that happen in her day, in traffic, at the gym, this and that, I'm like,
Let that go.
are we dying? do we got cancer? Do we have this? Like, what, like,
Yeah.
you got to, even in those situations, I would probably still tell you to be positive,
right,
which is crazy
right.
because of like I said, our mindsets. But at the same
words
time, I'm
out.
just like, man, there is so much bigger fish to fry and things that we could be worried about.
So much more.
So if we have it as good as we have it, bask in it, man. Enjoy
Bask
it.
in it. That's it.
Enjoy it. Don't dwell on the small stuff. Don't let someone in traffic ruin your day, man.
Never. I couldn't tell you the last. I mean, like, seriously, I say that because it's such a foreign thing to literally go through a day and not worry. Like, as a man with responsibilities, you know what I mean? Like, I say that hoping that it'll inspire somebody else to say, man, maybe I need to find out how to, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah, and a lot of
lived
them will
life
probably
of
think
stress.
you're just saying money.
Right.
Or they
It
think
is
that
not-
money is the
no,
reason, and that's not the reason.
No, not at all. Not
It
at all.
plays a factor
It
for
does play a
sure. I
factor.
will not deny that.
Definitely. But it's like I've been on the side of stress too. And I've been broke, and I've worked in warehouses, and it's like you get the feeling that you can never change what is normal. You know what I mean? So to be on the other side now, it's like, I ain't worrying about nothing. Like, I'm
Yeah,
just, you
yeah.
know, like.
I'm always telling Luis, man, he's somebody that he's dabbled in, not even dabbled now. He started dabbling and dove into the world of doing his videography and being a content creator and a filmmaker. And he still has his regular gig. And I tell him all the time, like, go for it, man. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to push him or steer him in the wrong direction. I think he's got all that figured
He'll
out.
get at his own rate.
Yeah.
But it's a feeling of liberation, man. Like never before, to know that it's hard work to be an entrepreneur, to run your own business, and to answer phone calls and to open yourself up to risk and ridicule. Like, it's not easy, but it's liberating at the same time. It gives you a sense of adventure. I don't know. Here's one of the things I've always felt from being a believer too. So tying in the faith part, to not call myself a believer, I would feel like there would be no moral. Like, I don't know, because haven't been there, but it's challenging to live right, what I think is right. So it's challenging to be a good husband, a good father, a good provider, a good citizen in my community. Like, that's a challenge, because it's so much easier to just not care.
Especially with the influences that we've had.
With the influence that we've
growing up
had.
that
Exactly.
are in the world today.
So it's
Right.
on that same tune. It's like, it's easier to just accept a job, work for somebody else, work till you're 65, retire, go through life, ho-hum. But it's a challenge, and there's something to be said to living that challenge. I think all men were created to kind of jump in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
My
man.
pastor teaches this really well. He talked about, if you want the reward, get in the game. Like, think about it from a child. No child, before you get muddied up by the world's principles and teachings, no child wants to be the loser when they join a sport. Like, it's natural to want to be a winner. It's natural to want to be in the game. So why at this point in your life would you just be okay with going with the flow, accepting the position that you got, not chasing anything further? You know what I mean? It's
It's like I said, I mean, it makes so much sense, man. It's crazy that all this stuff, like you're saying, so much stuff that I've felt. And it's like, I feel like becoming a parent, like you said, is a big part of what kicks that in. And hitting maybe this age, maybe around this age, or getting close to the 30 range.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard a lot about that recently. A guy that I listen to a lot and consume a lot of his stuff is a guy named Jordan Peterson. If you haven't checked him out, I definitely want you to check him out and tell me what you think a little bit about him, because he's a psychologist that's into a bunch of stuff. He got his fame off. He got into a situation working at a university in Canada. I think he used to be a professor at Harvard and a few other places, but he got into a situation where they were trying to get him to use specific gender pronouns at his university, and he refused. Part of it, I think, may be his faith. Yeah, touchy subject. Part of it may be his faith, and I think is his faith, and part of it is what he knows on the psychologist level, is that he brings up, like, what that impact has when you start getting to a point where words don't really have the meaning,
right?
And you discredit what we've established and how we conduct our society and things like
Right,
that, or whatever,
right.
and that it really leads to death and destruction of our society and
Makes
our
sense.
families and stuff. So it's crazy that I'm sure that is something that's so much also in faith.
Definitely.
He speaks to it, and where he drew me in was just speaking to it on a psychological level and what he's learned and the books and stuff that he would read and talk about, quote, old philosophers and things like
Yeah.
that. But eventually it kind of started coming to a point where he was getting at that he also is a believer. But a lot of people have asked him, and he really won't get into it exactly
Gotcha.
because he's pretty logical. He likes to give this, that, and other. And it was crazy. I heard him basically explain it this way the other day, and I wasn't sure if this is how he was saying it, but I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense to me too. It's like, for someone that doesn't believe or kind of feels something like I've always felt like there's something there, but I can't really explain this and that, whatever. He kind of got at the fact, or maybe said, but I think he just kind of got at it, that your conscience is kind of like
Yeah.
the faith talking to, or the God talking to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was weird that I was like, man, that kind of clicked with me too. And it's like so many things have been bringing me back, like people I've been consuming,
Right.
people I'm interested in talking to, like you, things happening in my life,
Yeah.
things like that. Like, and then to hear these things that you're saying and the things that I've heard lately about, he had a conversation with a woman, super compassionate woman that has a business and writes books about like self-help and all this type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. He said exactly what you just said, man. He said that all these things are principles really from faith. And he said, let me ask you something. Were you raised religious at all? And she was straight up affirmed, like would say it, that she was an atheist, and and this is why, and there's no science in this, and blah, blah, blah,
Somehow
blah.
got around to the same truths.
But when he asked her, she was like, yes, I was raised this way, raised Christian, this, that, blah, blah, blah. He was like, you don't even know that you're just living the word. And I was like, man, like that hit hard.
That's
Like,
heavy.
because I was like, the way I live, I've never lived it based off of the faith. Really, like at least in
Right,
my
right,
mind, or I never felt like I was. But at the same time, I was
you
raised
have
in
been
it, and I was
living,
brought
yeah.
up in it. And when I was a child, all that was instilled in me early. So it made me think, like, man, would I be this same person? Because that's always been my question to other people, and that's been a big part that has been my disagreement with a lot of hardcore Christians and Catholics and faith and stuff like that, is for them to say someone who is not accepted Christ into their heart or God into their heart or this and that and asked to be saved, and that someone that conducts themselves as a good human being and does all the right things and stuff
Gotcha.
is not going to heaven
Gotcha.
because they haven't chose to accept that God,
Acknowledge
that religion, that faith. And
Yeah.
so that was always something that made me fight the religion a little bit, and still to this day does a little bit, because I feel like if God is the person who I hear people in faith and religion explain, he's accepting of that person. And it's weird because I know like there's probably a lot of scripture that tells me why not, or tells me why it is that you do need to accept him into your life or live this way. Or so I'll be interested for sure as I read.
Definitely.
If I get into reading, I'm going to commit to it, especially
Gotcha.
now that you're somebody that says that's the way to go about it. So I'm gonna commit
It's
to
like,
it, man.
and it's
I'm
just
gonna
like
commit
you
to
said.
reading it.
I'm glad you put out the problems that you have with it. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you've been living a good life, and it's like the issue isn't God accepting you; He'll accept anybody. You know what I mean? It's more or less you accepting Him. So once you read the Bible, you'll understand the creation story, the plan of God, the reason salvation exists, how salvation came to be. So it's really about accepting that this is God's plan, accepting what He did to make salvation even possible for us, and like us through our choice making the accepting.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's not so
Yeah.
much God accept me because I'm just whatever. I'm doing good. Yeah, He accepts you. Do you accept Him? And that's how you get into the place of salvation. From what me as a believer, as a Christian man, my understanding of the book, that's how it plays out.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
it-
He gives
yeah.
you your free will. It's not like I'm gonna just accept everybody down there and it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just hard for me, and it's
It's a
still, like I
choice.
said, to swallow that.
Yep.
Someone who lives the right way, does the right things, compassionate to others, is like
Yep,
the walk,
yep.
man, has the walk, whatever. But it's not for that reason
Got you. Yep.
that they would get denied in some way, or they don't, or they're not
Right.
as unequal to someone that is. And so
Right.
that's something for sure that I think I'll learn and
You
go
will.
about that way.
And that's another big thing that comes up in the faith too. Is like people feel like there were for a time there were pastors who were just what they call fire and brimstone. So they preach hell, and so people get they come to God thinking I just don't want to go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, is that the right motive and intention too? You know what I mean? Did you come to God out of desiring real relationship, or you just don't want to burn? And it's like
No, that's been my biggest argument to some people that have tried to push it on me at times or
Right.
things like that, is that the thing that's one of the things I don't like is that the people that seem like they're only in it for the reward.
right.
And
right.
that's what this woman was kind of saying to Jordan Peterson as well. She was saying that why can't I just be a good person for being a good person? Why can't I choose that this is how I want to treat people and that this is the way I want to live my life and things like that, whatever. And that's where he started getting into like, what you don't know is just by doing that, you writing your books or whatever,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
literally spreading faith.
You are.
And it was crazy. I heard that and I was just like, man, mind blown or whatever. But it's always been hard for me to, and that's something I've given people a lot of times. Like the guy that works beside me right now or whatever, like I said, like you say, without mentioning names and stuff, he frequently references the reward.
Got you.
And I've had other people all throughout my life do the same thing, and I'm like, I want to be a good person just to be a good person,
Yep.
and because how it impacts the people around me, the people I interact with, my family, myself, the world,
God.
my
Yeah,
legacy,
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for a reward.
Right.
If we die and I go take a nap in the dirt and that's it, like
And that's the end.
and that's the end, I'm dead serious, Josh.
Right,
When I tell
right,
you I'm cool,
right.
I'm cool. When I
Right.
tell you I'm dead serious, like you
Yeah.
look at me in my eyes, I'm cool.
Right.
Like I'm not looking for anything in return for this.
Read that book.
I
And here's
will.
the thing.
I will.
Here's a thing I'll say too. I got to give props and honor where it's due. I grew up in church, not super into it because my parents wasn't like every weekers, but we would go a few times a year, and we felt like this is the thing to do. It wasn't until I turned 25 or 26 years old in my life that I found a true Bible teacher. So my pastor now, his name is Pastor Gary Keesee, Keesee. You can look him up online. He's got sermons and stuff everywhere. Great teacher. And the way that he teaches the word changed the way that changed the way that I look at life completely. And so I felt like at times, not that everything that I had learned before this was bad. It was just like, why didn't I learn this stuff earlier? Because of what he's teaching me right now unlocks so much in my life. And at me as a young man, trying to provide for my family, trying to do right by my wife, my daughters, the word that I'm getting from him is like, man, this is the way the Bible is supposed to be taught. So I received, and I was skeptical at first because some of the stuff sounded too good. It was like, man, there's really it was some reward type stuff. And it was like, man, but it's like, same thing without talking about the Bible. You want to do this, you put out value, you get value. It's sowing and reaping. You know what I mean? It's literally, you do good works, you get good back. It's an investment. You invest good, you get good out. But if I go around being negative all the time, what can I expect? You know what I mean? And it's like the Bible is a book full of the good news, how to live right, how to have morals, how to treat the people around you. And the reward is a natural offset of it. It just comes from it. So it's like, it's not about, man, some people might be motivated by the reward, but it's natural.
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't knock it because it's probably one of those things, like I said before, with like people's motivation for spending is because they want to make money. There might be something that they either can't explain or I'm not even asking that maybe is a better drive that I'm not aware of.
People come to God for
that makes
different
sense as
reasons.
well.
Like you said, escaping, life after death. They don't know what's out there. Some people come because they need delivered from something. Some people come because they have a health, whatever, like scared, whatever it is. Some people come for the reward. He's accepting of it all. He just wants you to get it.
I think I want to get one of the big things, I want to get my daughter in there just to, even if it's to get her started on the right foot, man, and get the core values.
Because you had that as a kid too.
Yeah. And my sister does it hardcore with my niece.
Nice.
And I see man, it's amazing to see in her because she says certain things that are super impactful, man.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, man, she has some kind of connection and relationship with God, and she's 4 years old, man.
Yeah,
She's 4 years old, and she references stuff as And on like a small level, not too long ago, we went out on like my friend's boat and stuff like, and she was having like the time of her life, and she was like, God didn't tell me it was gonna be this much fun. I'm so happy, this and that. Like, and I'm just like, man, she's got like a dope little relationship with God and stuff. And like, she's talking to me like,
Yeah.
like I'm just aware of it and this and that. And I'm like, that's so cool. And then on that same note,
Yeah.
I see where it also drives compassion and other things in her at a young age. That's
Yes.
awesome to see
Yes.
too, man. And it's definitely something that it makes me want to look more into that path. And like I said, since you say the committing thing, man,
I champion it for you.
the commitment thing or saying it. So since I said it, man, I'm gonna take your lead, man, and I'm gonna make it happen since I said
That's
it.
good
So that's
to
awesome to
hear,
hear.
man.
So with that being said, man, something else I wanted to get at, a couple more things before we get out of here.
Okay.
Defining moments of your life, man. Defining moments of your life. Give me some things that were like game changers for you, whether it be.
I think I kind of mentioned most of them.
Yeah.
Marriage. Oh my God, changed my life. It was one of the most scary things I was getting into because it's like commitment on another level. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up believing in divorce, so it's like if I'm doing this, I think that's what keeps most men away from it.
Definitely, it was what kept me away from
that fear of commitment. Like, is this the right woman for the rest of my life? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it's just that doing it one time.
Doing it one time. Ahead. You know, you don't want to go. Nobody wants to go through divorce. Mm-hmm. So it's like you want to make sure that you get the right one. But sometimes when you grow up in a community small enough, it feels like maybe there's not enough fish out there, or is this all that I have to pick from? Like, like what else is out there? But it's really like,
especially as a man.
As a man, yeah, you feel like, man, I'm just kind of putting a stop to everything. But the reward has been limitless. You know what I mean? So that definitely was one of my game-changing, life-changing moments. Finding God the right way. I think refinding God. So like,
what age do you think you were when you really?
So I accepted Christ into my life. I found God right before college. So the summer before I started college, like I went up, in church and said, like, I want to be saved. Did all this stuff. I got baptized, did all of that. And like that was, right before college, because I felt like I was entering a different phase of my life. It was unknowns, and it was like, I want to know that I'm going through this. From everything I heard, I want to know that I'm going through this with God, the wisdom of God. Like I want to know that I can seek somebody. If I can't ask my parents about something, I can find the answers. That's the very beginning. I didn't have all the answers even then, but like I said, refinding God. So later into my life, about age, that was age 18, 25, 26 is when I got, to the church that I attend now. Game changing. I'll never look back at some of the things that I've understood about what we call the kingdom. So the way my pastor says it, he teaches it like this. If you landed in Russia, if you got dropped out of a plane, whatever, you landed in Russia tomorrow, like the first thing you would do is you try to find out like what the laws are. Like how does this place operate? Like where can I buy a house? Like as a citizen, what are my benefits? Like what do I do? X, Y, Z. Same thing for us. When you become a believer, you have to understand what the benefits are. Like what are the laws of this kingdom that I'm a part of? If I say that I'm a part of God's house, like I'm a believer now, like what does that entail? So it's like, read the book. It's all in there, and it's full of benefit. It's full of a life of just peace, understanding, what prayer really means, like how to go to God. Like I couldn't imagine going through life, some of the things I've been through, and not have been able to lean on the fact that I can just pray about it. You don't hear people. I think
that's why I say that, like, it kind of hit home for me that I say my conscience.
Yes.
It's because it's like I always kind of thought I was talking to myself, but at the same time I would randomly say God, I would say like this or that, like especially when things were turning around for me, which I hate to be like that and hate to be like where you ask, because a lot of people talk about how you only go to them or ask.
Don't carry that guilt. It's natural.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like connected to source. Like your spirit understands that. If your natural doesn't, you know what I mean? It's like, we call it our conscience, but it's your spirit. It's like, that's what, it's going when we're asleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like all of those things. So like that, like was game changer to me. Like that was like the moment in my life that I took back. Like, like I can really get through life. I understand what prayer means. I understand how to seek God for decisions about my business, about my life, my wife, my kids, all of that. Answers are in the book. But if you don't like to read the book like I didn't, I wasn't reading it all like that. find a great teacher. So
Man, and the audio books now and everything. That's another thing that has me interested, man. And the
Yeah,
app
yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. It's because, like I said, I'm not a big reader, but I feel like there's
Yeah.
avenues for me to get it now.
Yeah, but a good teaching pastor, like they'll break down the parts that are really, really necessary because it's a big book. You can get lost in some of the stuff in there. You know what I mean? But he's a great teacher for the things that you need in life. Like, man, like this is what I needed right now. That helped my family. So that was a game changer for me. And then just having the, like starting a business, having the courage to start a business. Like I think that was the final game changer, to finally go and decide that, hey, I'm going to try this on my own. I'm going to commit to it enough that I can completely untether myself from a day job. So like it's like you literally put the power in your own hands. When you decide like, yeah, I'm going to go for this myself, it's not going to be easy, but you decide to take the power back. It's like I don't have to give myself to somebody else's. You know, and you're expendable when you work for somebody else now. If they're not going to give your job to somebody who, you know, will work less and do more, they're going to give it to a robot. You know what I mean? Like,
The main things I wanted to get at before we got off air is I felt like I talked way too much, but at the same time I felt like I really want to give what I was looking for to get from you with the book and you talking and stuff like that, as well as what I think would be good for people, where it's talk to me a little bit about your process of like after school or
Yes.
after college or whatever, where you initially started out, talked about some of the failures and about like what you went through. So basically give me a decent little timeline of how that went for you to get into your business.
Cool, yeah. So after high school, I attended DeVry University. So like I said, I kind of started working in high school. I was attracted to money. And we had recruiters come to our high school, and they were talking about DeVry University, get in and get out.
I signed up too.
Did you sign up there? Yeah.
I was supposed to go.
Yeah. Well, the thing
I
that
couldn't
that
talk
hooked
myself
me,
into the debt.
Yeah. It's very expensive, but the thing that hooked me was get in and out in just over 2 years. And I was like, man, I ain't trying to be in school 4 or 5 years to make my next dollar. Like, I need something I can get in and out quick. I was already inclined to technology. I like technology. And I didn't realize it, but technology was going to be the next wave. Like it's, you know, I think that was what gave me the leg up, is that I actually went the route of technology. It allowed me to start and stop business ventures, like tech-based ventures, websites. I started an online magazine at one time. Like it was crazy. I was able to quickly start and stop stuff because I knew how to build my own website. And so you can really reinvent yourself online if you know how to build a website.
So you went through a lot of like trial and error and trying
yes,
things and just
yes.
seeing how it goes.
Oh,
well, see,
yeah.
I think that's the thing that I've never done and that I saw in my wife, and I hear a lot of your successful entrepreneurs now, which is why I really want you to speak to this, is that it's like you got to try, you got to give it that shot. So, I mean, get into that a little bit for me and tell me like, so maybe a little bit more in depth with some of the things you tried and ones that were kind of successful, and the ones that you thought would be that maybe they just fizzled out.
So me and two of my best friends that started at DeVry together, they didn't finish there, but we kept in touch. We started our first business. We started building websites for people. We didn't even have a real name and everything at first.
I think we stopped by the office one time.
Did you stop by the office?
What was the name of that?
Yeah, it was called Studios 3.
Yeah. Me and Zach stopped by one day. I don't know if you were there that day
I
or
don't think
not.
I was. I remember, our buddy talking about it, but that was our first venture. So we were like, yo, like, I'm not even out of school yet, but I learned how to make websites. Let's see if we can like go and get some local businesses to, pay us to do websites. We started that in like 2007. Actually got a little bit of traction. So I moved closer to where they lived. We got a small office for rent and set up shop. So we thought we were killing it. We got our first like $20,000 check from the city of Columbus. We were like, man, like we got a grant, not a grant, but we won a proposal, got in on that. And we were like, man, like this is it for us. Like we could just, most days we were in there playing video games together, talking about, random stuff. We would play a lot. So we were young, we didn't know how to run a business, but we saw dollars and it made us think we were on the right path. We failed because we weren't future-proofing ourselves. We were too young to know anything about failure. So we only saw the upside. We saw checks every week and we thought we were good. Well, the stock market crashed in 2007, 8-ish. We had a bit of a recession at that time. People weren't buying homes. People were, getting laid off from their jobs.
Being a lot more conservative with their
People
money.
being very much more conservative with their money. If you were a business owner, we targeted small businesses. They weren't spending money on advertising, even if they probably should have at that time to kind of, compete better. they weren't doing it at that time. So it was like, man, we had to really step back and say, my two partners actually had wives at the time. They were starting their families. I didn't yet. But we looked and said, man, we're just going to dissolve this business and take jobs. And for the first time, we felt like we hit our first major failure. It was like, man, like, it was fun while it lasted, but I don't know if I'd be willing to do something like that again. So,
because it hurt.
It hurt bad.
It hurt.
It
the
hurt
ego.
really
it
bad.
hurt financially.
It killed our egos, man. Like I said, divorce. It was almost like divorce.
Okay.
It was like I didn't want to look at marriage yet because like, am I going to commit to this thing? Because I don't want to face what people tell me about when I tell them me and her aren't together anymore. So it was the same way when we left the business. It was like people were asking like, yeah, do you still do X, Y, and Z? Because we weren't posting about it. And to have to go through that, people are nosy. They want to know what happened to it. And it helped that we were going through a recession, so it was kind of understandable. But that was one of our first major failures in entrepreneurship. Since then, I had started an online magazine because I was young and I thought I was, on the city beat. Like we were having interviews. We had people coming and checking out this online magazine. I feel like that one was a little bit early. So this I released in 2007.
What was it called?
It was called Vessel Vibe. So it was like a version of Vibe. It was it was like it was urban, but it was like morally sound. So it was like, it was, we talked about positive things. We brought positive people to light. And it was all web-based. And so I ran that for a couple of years, and I feel like it was a little bit too early. I was too early to the game because I knew I had the skills to build it, but the market wasn't ready for it. So if you know anything about, online magazines, blogs and stuff now, people are on them constantly. People are listening to podcasts and stuff constantly because the smartphones have evolved. At the time when we were building it,
that makes sense.
When we were building it, people weren't on their smart devices as much. They weren't as used to, joining email newsletters. Like all that stuff was new, and we didn't have the runway that could, keep us paid while we waited for the market to catch up. So that dissolved. It was like, now I'm on my second business failure.
Who were you in on that one with?
I was in on that with, there were two girls that attended Ohio State University. So they were kind of like, they managed the writers, they managed the editors, I managed the tech side.
Okay.
So we started that and dissolved it. And they were hurt too because they had put a ton of their time, energy, and effort into it. And the money wasn't there. When you start an online business like that, like a magazine or something, the revenue you look at is to come from advertisers.
So, okay, that's what I was going to ask. So where is the money in an online magazine?
So if you build your audience, you sell advertisement. So
that makes sense. It's money in that's the money in almost everything.
Almost
nowadays.
everything. And for a time, like advertising on the web was big. Now there are big channels to do advertising. That was almost even before Google was really handling a ton of like ads. But failure number 2, and I was pretty much like done. Went to work a normal job. I worked for the city of Columbus.
What were you doing for them?
Web. So I was a web developer for the city of Columbus, and it was cool. Like, I mean, it felt like, okay, I get benefits, but I started to feel like what they call the golden handcuffs. It's like I'm not living what I know I want to live, but I have just enough benefits to be comfortable. And that, for an entrepreneur or a man with ambition.
I've been there for a long time. I think my guy Louis, he's over there racing his hand right now too. We've been there for a long time.
For a long time. So it's okay to be mediocre if the bills are paid and you got health insurance. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I never lost that itch. But in the back of my mind, I had a little bit of fear to start something else because it was like, do I really want to go through all of this again? It's not a walk in the park to go through business proceedings to set up your business, to establish yourself in the state of, whatever, your Secretary of State. You set up all those things up, get a business account, checking account, all of those things take time. So it was like, man, do I want to do this again? Well, fast forward maybe 2012, I decided, because even though we had dissolved our web development business, people still knew that I would freelance on the side. So I had picked up just enough clients on the side that I had reached a critical mass, and I was like, okay, do I want to leave my day job and chase this? My day job has a glass ceiling. I know I'm going to only get paid X amount of dollars a year. What I'm building on here on the side is actually paying me a little bit more and growing. But if I don't make a move from what takes most of my time every day, I'll never grow it to what it needs to be. So it was like it was a huge leap of faith. My wife was pregnant with our third daughter at the time. And I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And so I finally did it. She was like, wait a minute, like you're gonna leave your salary and I'm pregnant? Like it was crazy, but I was like it's again, it comes down to that faith thing.
Couldn't have been worse timing.
Couldn't find a worse time to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I was like, yo, like I've always handled the money in our relationship. She never really, she always trusted me to handle the money. So I was like, look, I got it mapped out. When I leave here, I'll still do some part-time work, but I'm going to spend most of my time growing the business. And I've never looked back. It grew. I have a few large clients that pay most of my bills. I don't even promote myself a ton online. I'm not like a catch-all. Like I'll do anything for anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. That's why I ask and like straight up when I'm asking, I'm not just asking for the people. I'm asking for myself because even me knowing you this long, talking to you randomly, talking to Larry and Dwight, talking to people around you.
Yep.
I've never really been fully aware of what you do, and I mean, to a degree, but exactly these details for sure definitely are all foreign to me to hear this from you, and that's amazing
huge,
to hear, man.
And I feel like God, so like around that same time too, I'm learning, like I said, principles, godly principles, how to better set up my family, how to set up my business, how to steward the things that I have, like the idea of being a good steward, taking care of, not spending frivolously, but doing the most with what you have. And so I started to apply those principles, watch my business grow, started to see other doors and opportunities open up, and that's really where the book comes from. So I started to get, I felt like a lot of times you'll say, man, I would say, man, when I finally make it, I've always thought, man, one day I'll be a millionaire. When I finally make it, then I'm gonna give back. Like I'm gonna start helping, people from my community. I want to help little boys that want a leg up in the technology game. And it was like those same statements are the ones that were keeping me from helping people where I was. So somewhere along the lines of me having, my pastor teaching me, it was like, start with what you have. Like, don't say that you're going to give when
you're
you
not
finally
there
make
yet.
it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? It was like, be a good steward of what you have. You do have time. You just don't want to do it. So it was like, okay. So a friend of mine said, hey, I'm doing some work at this high school. We want to start a web development group. And I'm kind of going off topic, but she said, we got like 10 kids there. They just want to learn how to do the web. And it was like, I had just learned this principle. Be a good steward of what you have. Like, do it now. And I was like, okay, I'm actually going to accept this. It wasn't pain or anything. It was just me, sewing into these little kids' lives. Did that the first time. That relationship has opened more doors for me than ever. It was just like literally like this. The girl that connected me with that, she works for a marketing firm, believe it or not. So she has given me more business. Like we were just, meeting on like me giving value. Like she just wanted me to help these kids because she has a heart for kids too. Went to this high school, did it out the, I call it the goodness of my heart. It wasn't always fun going there because, you're taking time away from your family to sow into these kids. But it was like, I'm going to do what I have now. I don't stop saying that I'm going to do it when I finally make my business such a success that I can finally help kids now. Like, no, I can do it right now. And I did. And that's kind of been the genesis of more teaching opportunities, more opportunities for my business. And so it kind of starts to all make sense. Like, wait a minute, I don't have to wait to be a good person. Start right now and watch how it really is overwhelming now. Like, wait a minute.
That's so dope to hear, man. It's what I hear from a lot of people. And I think it speaks to what we talked about earlier, where it was like, it's crazy how when you start doing things for the right reasons, it's almost like the success just follows it. Like it just falls in your lap to a degree. Not to the degree that you don't have to put in the hard work and the time and all that. But at the same time, the opportunities and the doors that open because of you being someone that is providing opportunity for people or giving what you can.
There's money in the people business. So that's really where it stems from. If you can find a way to help people, like I've found ways to make myself invaluable to my clients. So from a web perspective, one of the things that we learned early on is most people who had a website, and we did like a little survey, most people who had a website that we came in after to get their business had a bad experience with the person that came before us. So they already had a negative experience with web, and they're like, they kind of come in like, are you going to treat us like they did? So-and-so disappeared after this many months, and we don't have our passwords, we don't have X, Y, Z. So it was like, I had to look at that like, okay, how can I make this an opportunity for me? Like, I focus my business on customer relationship. I'm like, I want to answer their calls. I want to make sure that I follow up. I want to make sure that I give them a great experience.
Be everything that the other people
I'm going
want.
to be their friend, exactly. And so it's literally grown from there. And the thing that I'm learning about web, and I don't want to get too much on web because everybody's not a web developer, but the thing that I'm learning about this is that it's a kind of an intimate experience. Like, you don't just look in the phone book. You don't look on, you don't just search the web for, hey, who's building websites in my city. It's more of a referral type industry. Like, you'll see somebody's website you like and maybe ask, who did your website? If it's your friend, whatever, business owner, who did your website? That's the referral that's probably going to get the business. Very few people do cold leads to get their website built. They want to know,
okay.
like, oh, so-and-so told me about you. You did X, Y, and Z. So that's literally been all of my business.
So your character and who you are and who you are as far as your business and all that is playing a big factor because
role.
That in your realm is something that is greatly successful.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly it. And I would say that transcends any type of business. Like having good customer service, like those are easy things to do. Smiling at people, you know what I mean? Like talking friendly, remembering to email them, or you know what I mean? Like those are the easy things that you can do in any business. But most people, I mean, we live in a touch and go, time. It's
and we get focused
media.
On the dollar.
It's, we do. We get focused on the dollar.
Yeah.
If they're not paying us what they used to pay us, we forget them. We move on to the next. I've got relationships, like I said, for 8 to 10 years now where people still come back. And it's like that's the ones that make it worth me leaving a 9 to 5. You know what I mean? So it's really just about working in excellence, making yourself invaluable, inexpendable to your client. So, and that's what's kept me afloat.
That's awesome, man. That's exactly the story that I wanted to get out there and the information. I feel like you just telling people that of going through those things and dealing with all that, it's something that people need to hear because it's like sometimes I think they look at maybe someone like you or someone else that is successful or even on a bigger platform and just be like, oh man, must be nice and it must have been easy for them and man they seem like they've been getting money from the start and their life has been perfect from this long and they got the perfect little family and I mean I hear stuff like that and I'm not even doing nothing like you guys are doing, you know what I mean? I'm just working a regular gig and making it work for me out of smart decisions. But it's like when someone can see that or hear that from you, especially, that's why another reason I wanted to do the podcast. And to hear that it's like you gotta go through those things. You gotta try, and everything ain't always as sweet as it seems.
Right.
And we have those, believe it or not, we have the same struggles as those people in business and relationships. Even though you think our life, our family, our relationship with our wife, our kids, whatever, we have a lot of the same struggles. We go through the same stuff, and people think it's all sweet for someone that's doing well, and it's like, no, it's that mind shift is what it seems like to me that I see in people like you and other people that are successful that really gets it going in the right direction and it helps it go that way. Is that instead of focusing on the bad and this and that, it's I'm going to look at things a totally different way. I'm going to change things to make sure that we behave in that way and that it's talked within my circle, within my wife and my kids, so that's where we're headed. We're headed up because we talk up.
Right. It's like setting a new standard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Exactly
definitely.
Yeah.
Last couple things I wanted to get into, man. What you think about LeBron, man? Me and you both been hardcore LeBron fans from day one.
And we still LeBron fans.
I was like, I gotta tell him. I was like, I don't know how he's gonna feel about this. I was like, but I gotta tell him. Like, I seen he made a post saying like, I'm with him, LA Bron, this and that. Like, I'm going with him. And then I basically went with him when he went to Miami and stuff too.
Yeah.
Because I had to tell people like, I was never a Cleveland fan before he got there.
No way.
So it was easy for me to say like, okay, I'm a LeBron fan, man, because I watched 0 Cavs games before he was on their team.
Nobody was watching
0.
Cavs.
I watched the Bulls when I was a kid.
He made us enjoy the Cavs.
Yeah. So when he moved, I was like, you know what I mean? That's my guy. I'm rocking with him. I wish he stayed closer to home? This and that, yeah. But it was crazy. Like with this last move, it's been hard for me to swallow. Yeah, pause. But it's because it's like now it's the Lakers. It's the Lakers. Like that's the thing that hits with me now.
And
like,
Lakers has such a strong core. A base of fans, you know what I mean? So it's like we're encroaching upon them.
The Kobe situation is what kills it for me. It's like I hated that dude for so long. And it was juvenile. I've had many conversations and talked about this in posts and stuff. Like I couldn't even appreciate Kobe's greatness when I was younger because I was at a point where I was like, he wasn't my guy.
not,
This is
exactly.
my team. I'm a LeBron person. This and
Yep.
that. He ain't as nice as y'all say he is. LeBron's this. LeBron. And now that I'm older, I'm like, man, Kobe
Just
was
appreciate
great.
his greatness.
He was great,
Greatness.
man. And I love
Right.
what he's doing now, trying to help teach people in all the different avenues he's
Yep,
into in
yep.
business and all that. But like, it's still really hard for me right now to like, but like, oh man, I accept Laker, LeBron, or going to the Lakers. Like I told people, I would almost be. The crazy thing is, like, I would almost be more okay if he went to like the Warriors or something like. And it's crazy
Not
for
the
people.
Warriors.
It's crazy for people to hear that because they're like, man, that's the biggest problem people have with like Durant and things like
Yeah.
that. But I'm like, man, anywhere but who was supposed to be like his opposite. You know what I mean? And I know that's what
Yeah.
the Warriors are now.
Yeah.
But it was like I have so many deep rooted years in the dislike for
I
Lakers
have
and Kobe.
listen. I have a growing and budding love for LeBron James. No homo.
Yeah.
The man can do no wrong. So like when we were coming out, he's practically our age. So us coming out, it was like we were coming out with this phenom. So I think that's where kind of the fandom comes from. Like I grew my respect for LeBron, not the Cavs. Like I enjoyed watching the Cavs. But like you said, when he went to Miami, I still like LeBron. I wasn't happy that he left, but now that he's won a championship for Cleveland, the man can do no wrong. Like,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
like,
Okay.
I was one of the championship Cleveland guys. Like, bring us a chip, and then
Okay.
like you've done what you needed to do there. You
I
know
feel
what
like
I mean?
did you ever mention? Maybe I'm getting you confused so much. Do you guys have any family in Cleveland or roots in Cleveland or anything
I
like that?
don't. I have some close friends.
You guys went
but
up there
not-
for the parade and stuff.
We did.
Though,
We
you?
went for the
Yeah,
parade.
yeah. How was
I
that,
couldn't
man?
miss
How was that?
Oh, man, it was an experience like no other. Especially
He was on
when
cloud nine
I
as
think
a
the
LeBron
year
fan.
before that is when the Cleveland 30 for 30 came out. You remember they talked about
Yeah, yeah,
Cleveland?
yeah, Believe
all those
Land.
losses. Exactly. Believe Land came out. So to have that happen right after, and then they talked about editing it to kind of show the championship. But like, what was it? 40-some, 50 years, no championship.
I want to say 50 some.
50 some, no championships, and then to get it that very next year was like
Craziness.
against all odds.
Against all odds.
Against all odds. So here's the thing too.
Down.
and
What was it? 3-0, 3-1.
Come on,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't want to get too much into basketball, but think about that. Like, the beauty of the Warriors, and you can like more than one team, more than one player, whatever. The beauty of the Warriors is their system. You know what I mean? So it literally took a freak of nature to beat a great system.
Right.
But he's like the only one who could pull that off. Like,
Yeah,
it takes a Superman to break a system like that. I mean, that's why it's 3-1, the series.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the fact that he actually did it, like, come on, man. And with the cast that he had, man, he's going to go down. I mean, the man can do no wrong.
Yeah.
He's a philanthropist.
Yeah, man.
He's a-
I-
The Cavs, he's had all those years.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah,
All of them.
yeah. Luis lived in Cleveland for a good
Oh,
amount
yeah?
of time. Yeah, lived in Cleveland for a good amount of time and experienced the wave, the LeBron wave and stuff in a big way. I early on went to the high school game when he played Brookhaven here.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what really latched me on. I was a fan from the jump because of that, because I went and watched him and Andrew Lavender battle when Brookhaven was super nice, and they battled at the shop, I think, is where we went and watched it. And from like that moment forward, I'm watching and highlights and things of his high school games and this and that. We were still in
man
he
was
was
off
a
the
year
chain.
ahead of us.
Yep.
And it was just like from that point forward, I'm like, oh, he's from Ohio. Like everything. Dude's birthday is close to mine. He's a late December birthday like me. On and on. Like there was a lot of things I related with. Like,
similarities.
and I think the same thing with you probably, man, with his his values and how he conducts himself in the business.
Just a
And
good guy.
yeah, man. And then the parenting thing now and all that stuff is crazy, man. Did you watch the recent thing with the shop?
I haven't seen it.
You got to check that out. He's got that show,
the
The
new
Shop.
show. Yeah.
It's on HBO. It's pretty dope, man.
about to
And he
check
was
it
talking about like kind of regretting naming his son after him because he's got to kind of live up to stuff and this and that.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of different things, but he's getting big into like social, wanting to have an impact and stuff like that,
Yeah,
which I know
yeah.
for him is putting his neck out there, but at the same time he feels like, you know what I mean, I have
Feel
that
strong
reach.
enough about it,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And that's respectable. A lot
Yeah.
of people wouldn't do that, but he is. So.
Yeah, but I just wanted to get somebody else that I knew was like a LeBron fan. I wanted to touch base, and I was like,
The man can do no wrong.
I seen you were like, yeah, I'm LA Bron, and I'm like,
And that was
still.
me just kind of showing like some, false humility. Like I wanna, it was grimace. It came through a grimace. But
I tell people a lot of times now. I'm like, I think another thing that messes me up is I'm like the Lakers colors. I was like, to me, that's always been the Briggs color.
Yeah.
And I was a West guy, and I was like, man, those colors are for chumps, man. Those are for people that are soft.
I went to Briggs for 1 year too.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. I mean, I know we didn't really get into it and stuff,
Yeah.
but that was something that I really didn't know. I figured that's what you had done. Did you go there and then Fort Hayes, or there and then Eastmore?
I went to Briggs, and then I moved our senior year to Reynoldsburg.
Reynoldsburg.
So they were same color as Lakers too. Crazy,
gotcha,
crazy.
gotcha,
We moved out east, and I ended up in Reynoldsburg. Yeah. I mean, life changing too. All of those experiences.
Gotcha. Are we still recording and everything? Because the main thing I was going to say, man, before we get off here, tell everybody where they can get the book.
Oh yes, so you can get the book.
Tell
on
them
Amazon.
a little bit, quick, what they're getting in the book, like what
Yes.
the main principles are. Because I feel like we got into a little bit, but maybe probably not as much as you wanted
Okay.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the book is.
That one is the one that's available.
Yeah. This is the
You
book
know, I
that's
got that
available right now.
personal first edition. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
had
You
to-
got the
had to
the
get
day
in with
one
my
edition.
guy.
Yeah. So the book is available on Amazon.com right now. You can get a physical copy from Amazon.com. You search my name, JOSHWATTERS. That's the easiest way to find it. But the book, like I said, it's called Streams: The Fourfold Income Strategy. And then the subtitle under there says how you can earn more, work less, build wealth, and live rich. And really, that's all the book is about. It's literally about finding stability in multiple streams of income. Like I said, you know, my business is web. There are ebbs and flows in that, and I would see drought in different times of the year. If it's, you know, holiday season, summer, there were times when I couldn't get clients to pick up the phone. You know, my family was hungry. Like, you just, you know, it ebbs and flows. So I had to find other ways, and through different opportunities, I found out how not just myself, but everybody can build up to 4 streams of income to provide the stability that you need so you can earn more, work less. I work less than I ever worked in my life, and I earn more than I've ever made.
That's crazy.
It's unbelievable, and that's how I can afford to, you know, stay home, help my kids, you know, the homeschooling thing and stuff like that. But literally, when you take the risk to set up your business, you start to see why people set up businesses. It literally becomes an asset. Some nights I wake up, there's a check in the mail. Some nights I see a transaction on, you know, my invoicing, and it's like, man, how could I not? You know, I went so many years without starting my own business, but you see the benefit of it. So it's, you know, I won't get into all of the streams, but you can find them out quickly. It's, you know, starting your, you know, not, I won't say.
Man, give them. Go ahead.
Okay,
Give the
give it
4
to 'em.
streams just because
The 4
I think
streams.
you can give it easy, and it's something that'll maybe get people interested and make them actually give it a read.
Got you. So the first stream of income is the work of your hands, whatever it is that you're great at. My first stream was building a business. It was, you know, the web development firm. I've always been a technologist. I've been into, you know, the web and marketing.
So do what you know, what you're
Do
working
what
with.
you know. Work with
What's the-
what's
what-
your hands,
what's the
whatever it
second?
is. And you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can have a day job. Like, that could be your first stream. That is your first stream by default. The second stream is teach what you know. Like, literally teach what it is that you know. So if I'm great at the web, my natural output is to teach about the web. So like I said, the high schoolers, that turned into more teaching opportunities. I now get booked to teach at an IT program here in the city. I teach there every month. Plus, we do workshops outside of that. So it's like, it just kind of, you know, and once you decide that this is what I'm going to do, take some good pictures, document the process, people start to see that, wait a minute, he teaches X, Y, and Z.
Oh, okay, and that leads to opportunity.
And it leads to more opportunities. So that's the second stream. Everybody, if you're good at something, you can teach it. You probably don't know it, but you're teaching it now. You know, I'm sure people ask you about what it is that you do, and
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
that
people
is something that I would
constantly
definitely
ask.
want to talk to you about, and probably off air, and maybe
Yeah.
when we get back on at another time, bring you back on.
yeah.
About, like, I always felt like I didn't really have nothing to teach, but at the same time, I do know a good amount about nutrition and working out and
ton.
stuff like that
A
now.
ton.
And I've been hesitant because I don't have a personal trainer license, and I don't in any way want to discredit the people that do or
Yes.
endanger anyone by giving them my version of the information as opposed to
Right,
maybe
right.
what's legit. But at the same time, I feel like I can help some people,
You can help some people.
and provide value.
And that's the thing. I had a conversation to that second stream teaching. You never think that, you always think that there's somebody that knows more than you. People already find their personal trainers. They can find a million people online that are talking about food and nutrition. But the thing is, especially in business, there's always a generation that's coming up behind you that don't know anything. They don't know. They're just graduating from college and haven't started their business yet. They're looking for a mentor. They're looking for a book. They're looking for somebody who can lead them down that path. They don't know the Gary V's and everything that we know. They don't know who to go to. Why not you?
Yeah, it makes sense, and even more so what you were saying before about, like, kind of like the intimacy of it, as far as, like, I also see people wanting to maybe deal with someone they know.
On a
I see-
personal level, right.
Yeah.
A more
I just
normal
saw that
person.
happen. My wife was just telling me about somebody that happened for with the personal training type thing. She's
Yeah.
not a trainer, but she started training people in her home
It
because
feels more real.
yeah, and it was people that just knew her either that were close with her or knew her social media wise and just decided to go that route. But go ahead
Gotcha.
and give us the next one.
Yep, the next stream is actually creating a product. So now if your first stream is doing the work of your hands, the second was teaching what I know, the third and natural output should be to build a product. Now I can teach what I know in product form, whether it's an ebook, if it's a YouTube video series, it's an online training course, like actually making a product out of what it is that you do. That's how people that master that are the ones who really start to build wealth, because now I can teach my philosophies. People can pick up this book. They can find out about me online from wherever that in the world, whatever time zone, anytime. I can only teach and be physically present at one time, one place at one time. I can do a workshop at one place at one time. But if I document that, package it up for the web, and now sell that course, it's a product, and I can make money on that asset all the time. So that's the third and natural output. That's the third stream. The final stream is to start investing. Start investing wherever you're at. Like, it becomes a stream. It doesn't always start. It starts out as a trickle because you're kind of dabbling. Like we said, we talked about the investment apps and things you can start, but those are the ones that are going to grow and become your stream later in life. So whether it's stocks, whether it's a money market account, a mutual fund, something like that, like get into investing and start to research investing, what you think is better for you. Some people are risky. They want to buy a house and flip it. That's an investment. Some people are, they want to invest in maybe a family member's business or something like that. Help them start their bakery business. Help them start the t-shirt line. That's an investment if it's going to pay you back. Some people just want something simple like investing in stock, and that's another easy output.
Yeah, and people listen, man. It's a good way to go if you're at a job, you've been there a long time, even, and you have a 401k or something. I didn't do mine for years, and don't get me wrong, I'm always worried about when things will crash again, because I'll say when.
Yeah.
Since we all know that. I mean, the people that kind of pay attention to that stuff know that everything kind of goes in a circle.
It's cyclical.
But at the same time, man, I didn't get in mine for years, and I got in mine not too long ago. And I'm talking about, man, I've been aggressive with what I put in because I could afford to, because I save.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, they're literally matching half of what I'm putting.
And it's like pre-tax, like it's crazy.
No, this is taxed. My
Oh.
401k is taxed. I'm in a Roth too, which is
Gotcha,
pre-taxed.
gotcha.
I'm in a Roth IRA that's pre-taxed
Yep.
through them as well. But the 401k is just one that you'll get taxed when you take it out or when you retire, that time. And people kind of get hesitant the same way I was because of penalties or this and that. But at the same time, it's when your job will match and offer that stuff, man. It's literally when people say you're
money.
passing up on free money.
It's free money.
It's free money, and I'm surprised because mine has grown tremendously just since me being in it a couple years now. And I'm talking about like a few years ago I got in, and I don't know what I was putting in from the start, but I'm fairly aggressive now. I put in like maybe I want to say like 80 to 1 something range, or like maybe 110ish range or something like that. I put in per check.
Yeah.
That I put into there, and
Free money.
And I want to say I'm at like I'm at a nice little chunk, man. I don't want to get too much into numbers, but at the same time, it's a nice little chunk now that the times I've looked, I've just been surprised. Like,
There's value in that.
shoo, like
It
that,
is,
yeah. So the investment thing is key, and if someone has that opportunity, I definitely think they should
Definitely.
dive in and go that route. But man, this has been awesome,
It's been amazing.
and I'm so glad we did
Appreciate
this.
you, man.
And yeah, for sure. And then even with you mentioning the one part of the stream, man, and saying about doing a product and stuff like that, I think also, yeah, I think also the route that we might want to go is I think you should either start your own podcast, man, or I think maybe you get on with me on a regular basis. And Luis, and I told him I want him to get more involved and stuff like that. He was on here talking.
Okay.
We did like an episode 0 yesterday,
Okay.
and when he talked, I'm like, man, this dude's voice is smooth like butter. Like mine sounds like I'm raspy and this and that. I'm like, he sounds like he's doing a movie premiere.
Like he's practiced this
Oh
thing.
man, yeah. On top of the fact, man, he's like me and you, man. He's got his head on straight, got a lot of good knowledge, and he's someone who's big in the business. So for sure, at least even if he doesn't want to get more involved, he's going to be somebody that I interview and give his perspective and let people know what it takes and stuff. But for everybody out there, this is the book, man. Go and get it.
Thank you.
Like you said, you can get it on Amazon. Give him your website and stuff as well.
Yes, you can also find me everywhere online at Josh Waters Co. Like JoshWattersCo. And then the official website, of course, is joshwaters.co. So,
man, it's been amazing. I'm
That's
so
it.
glad we did it. My
yeah,
guy.
me too, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank
man.
you.
All right, people. See you later.
All right.